YouTube. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're live on YouTube. Let's get IG going. Okay, we're live on IG. Last but not least, let's see, we'll move IG here. X is here. This way we can see all the comments. And X. Okay, let's start that. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. No way.
What's up?
X Live is not working? Oh, there it is. No, it's live. Holy shit. Well, thanks for the heads up. Okay. All right. We're live on X, and it's having problems generating preview. But it is the top post on my page. Let's see. Pin to the profile. Pin to the profile. We're good. Yeah, we're good. I think we're good. Okay, we're good. Okay. Yes. 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 Check. Profile. We're good. Yeah.
Hello.
Okay, we're good. No, not you. I'm just making sure audio. I'm making sure audio is coming through. Okay, let's start it. Let's go. Everything seems to be working nicely. All right, here we go.
It's not having access.
Come on, YouTube. Every time. Let's check the audio. What up, Big Money? I see you out there.
So baby, I just wanna set your body free. And I don't care what's going on in the night outside my door. I just wanna get your head right, baby. Give you all the love I got for sure. So baby, if you've got that feeling, you know I wanna give you that midnight healing. Oh, I just wanna make love to you all night long. Midnight healing, baby. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about now.
Okay. What's good, y'all? What's up, Big Man? I see you out there. What's up, everybody? Hang on real quick. We're coming to you with, oh, wow. We're coming to you with, you might notice a little difference in the audio. I'm just doing an audio check right now. Oh, yeah, look at that. Oh, he's right. Okay, corrected audio after 8 years of the Hour of Power. We finally, I think, got the audio correct. So shout out to Joshy IT for helping out with that audio earlier today. Josh, big shout out. I don't even know. I'm not sure if you're watching or not because the comments don't seem to be working on X. X seems to be having a fair amount of issues. Okay, so tonight's guest is someone that I wanted to have on for a while now. We always have a good conversation in spaces, and now I finally get to have a good conversation with him in person on the Hour of Power. So, well, without further ado, let me introduce Thom. Let's see if we got him here. We do. Oh, I gotta get him everywhere. Hang on, Thom. Double screen it. Good. Okay, we're good. Okay, Thom, say hello to everybody.
Good evening, everyone. How's it going?
All right. Thom, welcome to HOP. Welcome to the Hour of Power. Finally, I got a chance to
Thank you very much.
Yeah, it's not spaces no more, Thom.
When we talked and you went down the list and I was like, oh, all right, so it's general ubiquity. Fair enough.
Okay. So I'm sure I'm going to have a fair amount of questions, but we're going to start off the way I always like to start off, which is why don't you give a brief introduction, say hello to everybody, give a brief introduction about yourself, a little brief history, and then we'll pick it up from there.
Cool. Sometimes it flows more easily when it's Q&A, but my background, both in school and work, is centered on design, business operations. I ended up in the Web3 realm, looped in indirectly through a musical artist that I'm a huge fan of named Verite. She started releasing tracks as one of one NFTs. We could go into that later, but at the time I just had an exchange account, right? I didn't even have a wallet, right? This crypto sitting on an exchange. I'm like, how do I work this, right? Like it's talking heads. So that was my entry, and next thing you know, right, over collecting and so on, and some notoriety, I guess, over time, here we are. But my background's in design. I worked in design, corporate stuff, everything from logos to complex campaigns to saving brands from killing themselves and so on. By training, like starting with school, right, there's the high art component. And so there's that. And in general, as it shows up in design, I think we talked about this in a prior space. One of the things that shows up, I guess, in life and in work and whatever, that creative problem solving ends up being core to me, in terms of keeping my attention, my interest, that I find compelling, is creative problem solving. So whether it's in business operations, basically hacking a budget to make things work, figuring out a complex problem, being the fixer, the problems that are complex enough or annoying enough or that nobody has time for, like call Tom, he'll figure it out. And so finding a solution for various things, that's part of what design is, right? You got message, you have image, you've got, all those things. So that's the creativity has been part of my life ever since heading off to college. I was hell-bent on becoming Mr. Physics, like lab physicist guy, playing with subatomic particles or whatever. And my art teacher in high school said, Tom, give up all this science stuff. You're an artist. And I was like, yeah, okay. All right, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Usually it's the other way around.
So yeah, years later, there was one of those realizations. Yeah, I think I was just sitting somewhere by myself and I was like, damn it, she was right. So yeah, that's I guess some of the high points, and it's like, where are you coming from? Where's the like, so I was trained as a designer. Some pretty amazing professors from early on, and then I got out of school. I ran my own design practice for 11 years. Went to work for a women's college up in New England that made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And then I've done all additional contract consulting work. I worked for a state-funded nonprofit up there doing business operations, team building stuff. I managed a team of 30 people with widely varied skill sets and areas of focus. And so, yeah, it's like this weird, I guess you'd call it what? Right brain, left brain, like this odd mix of creativity and brass tacks. So
okay.
There's at least a couple points for starters.
Okay. I didn't want to interrupt you. Okay. So question, younger Tom, right? Well, so this is interesting, right? Because most people are like, everybody's telling them, get a real job, go be a physicist, and forget about the art. You'll never make a living. But obviously, your teacher saw something, right? So, question: younger Tom, baby Tom, Tom growing up, was there? And because I don't believe in coincidences, right? I don't believe that we all ended up in these NFT spaces all together, and everybody. When the bear market came, everybody ran out, and then there's just like left just a group of people, and it ended up being some of the best group of people I ever met in my life, which I found uniquely interesting because everybody seemed to really have a positive outlook on everything that was taking place, regardless of. I mean, the world could have been burning down, and everybody's in spaces like, I love this place, I love selling art, I love creating art, right? And so, it seems like no negativity in these spaces, no, just people loving art. So I don't believe that, I believe I always say that everybody has an artist in them. Was there any art that took place when you were younger, or like how did when you grew up? Were there any art classes, anything like before we get to your teacher recognizing you? Is there anything that took place when you were younger?
I don't know. I always loved drawing. I think that's not really something doesn't make you an outlier. Kids like drawing things, right? Any random stuff. I don't care what it is. Like, you know, the weird animals, right? Stereotypical kids drawings. And so yeah, the drawing was certainly a always a thing for me, but in terms of the refinement in creativity, I suppose that's where you start to get into a little more nuanced psychology, I suppose. Like take for example the difference between studio art and design. Right, there are differences there in terms of goals, the framework, and so on. But yeah, there wasn't anything that really stood out per se in terms of well, here's a fun thing, right? During the time that I was that same teacher.
Bless you.
Thank you. The same teacher, I was doing graffiti in textbooks, right? You know, you open up a book and you've got the inside sheet right on the inside cover, and there's that thicker paper.
Nice and
But the
blank.
paper goes all the way across. So I was doing these basically graffiti murals inside my textbooks. And so there was one in particular, it was a geometry book. The teacher saw this, the art teacher, and she goes, well, hold on, let me see that. And she's like, what is this? And she's like, can I over the whatever weekend, can I take this book? So end result, my geometry textbook ended up in an arts festival, and I don't remember if it won like an honorable mention or something like that, but in this like student art section of a big art festival, it ends up entered, you know, on display. And so I don't know, I guess by that point it had gotten pretty extreme in terms of, I don't know, creative things wherever you find the place. It's like an artist, right? You could just pick up anything random. I mean, look at the original charcoal.
You
burnt
create
stick.
on anything. Create on anything. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, aside from those ramblings, there isn't anything that really stands out per se. But that that epiphany, the epiphany really came in college. So I could go in and tell a abbreviated version of that if you'd like.
Yeah. I mean, we got to get to know who you are, man. So, yeah.
So I go off to college. I'm a physics major. And so I'm taking, you make your way, all right, first physics class in college, 2 weeks into it, you're dealing with all this Newtonian mechanics, standard stuff, right? Darwin, apple falling on the head, the regular, as we know, real world physics. And so 2 weeks into the class, the professor says, all right, well, welcome back. Hope you all had a good weekend. So this week we are finally going to move on to the quantum realm. And I said, what? So combination of multivariable calculus, 2 weeks into the first physics class, you're kicking over into quantum. And I'm like, wow, all right, here we go. So what ends up happening is you're taking essentially two math classes. One's called physics, the other is called math. And functionally, they're the same. So I was losing interest and I could feel it, but powers of rationalization and so on, you say, no, this is just, you know, it's like a speed bump or a lull, right? Things will pick back up, right? But as the mental blocks stacked up, where it was a struggle to remember some of the like go-to building block formulas and all this kind of stuff, it got to where it was just like, this is not looking good. Same semester, as part of the core curriculum, you had to take this array of classes, right? It's a liberal arts education. You had to take 2 history classes, 3 literature and arts classes, soft science like bio related, some sort of hard science, what else? There was another like a moral reasoning or sort of psych moral reasoning component. So anyway, you had to take these 8 classes as part of the core curriculum. And I took it fell under literature and arts, and it was an art class. And you started out, I think, with charcoal or pencils or something. They ran you through the ringer in a gentle way through all these different media. So there was charcoal, photography, acrylic, sculpture with paper, pretty straightforward. And what else? So, I mean, you're getting 2D and 3D stuff. And so I happily and easily got, I don't know, probably an A- or something in that class. Enjoyed every minute of it. Meanwhile, my grades were going down in physics and calc. And I'm like, if this isn't a big flashing sign, I don't know what is. Like easy A versus struggling for far less. Like here's the tipping point, right? The little seesaw just went the other direction. So there was the epiphany. But yeah, the school didn't want an art department. Art history, fine. Go study art, get academic and debate this stuff and analyze it and do all that stuff. Great. Creating art, nope, not having that here. You need to go be a lawyer, doctor, business person, etc. Right? Artists, no, there's no place for them here. Well, they finally came to terms with it, but there is just a little FU. They said, okay, fine, you can have your art department, but we're going to make it honors only. So literally you could not graduate unless you maintained honors grades. So some of the other grades that were lacking, because the honors standards are up there pretty far. So I had to inch the grades back up. So I essentially was a man with no country or whatever, man with no major for a while, because I wasn't officially allowed into the department until my grades were high enough that I could graduate. So anyhow, there was the hinge point, that easy A versus like struggle for B, C's, whatever it was.
I guess they almost viewed it as art as a distraction. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when they say like, what is it's like how you could turn things around. You could ask questions in a admittedly biased way, but you say, well, okay, what purpose does this serve to society? Or what future does this hold for you in terms of, I don't know, income, your ability to donate back to the school, right? Like it was intriguing, right? And the people that you get in the department, it's funny, they came from everywhere. I will age myself. I was actually sitting in one of my design classes with Rashida Jones. I think she ended up dropping the class or whatever. Rashida Jones went on to do some acting work. It's Quincy Jones's daughter. But anyway, that was kind of like you do a double take, right? You're sitting there at the big tables, all right? You got your pencil, and right, then you look over and you're like, what the? But anyway.
So, this is interesting. So art, technically, was a distraction and taught in a sense that you can't make money at art, which is fucking mind blowing. Because years later, social media pops up and gives everyone the opportunity to become more lucrative than most jobs that people work for, work their whole lives for. You don't, it's with the power of the internet today, you don't really have to you just have to find a niche, you just got to find something that catches on. And doing that is an art in itself. But if you could then somehow apply that niche to your art, you could become a very successful and lucrative artist, especially with merchandise and all sorts of abilities that are out there. You have print on demand. set up the Shopify cart and just, take advantage of all the different sorts of ways that you could advertise. There was a very strategic method at one point where you set up a Shopify, and they knew that so many people were buying off of Facebook that all you had to do was Facebook ads, $5, $10, $50, and if you found your market correctly, you could sell them anything from a Shopify store. So as long as it's almost guaranteed to make a sale. If you move stuff around, you figure out the right crowd, the right market, the right everything, and you can make a hell of a killing out there. But web revenue, social media revenue, views, hits. I mean, just look at all of the artists, all the photographers that took advantage of YouTube and YouTube Shorts and finding the right combination of everything now. It's just, go ahead.
Yeah, they the tools and the methodologies and what the marketplace looks like and things like that you get into marketing and it's interesting there's the crossover into economics too, right? Then you start to lean on the finance guys, but the tools, like, I don't know, when you started to say, like, you're putting together these videos and stuff, I remember there was within that big department, right? It was called Visual and Environmental Studies. Environmental isn't necessarily forests and lakes and streams and carbon emissions. It was the built environment, which was architecture, landscape design, and urban planning. Then you had us designers, and then the studio artists and the animators and regular filmmakers. And you're picking a track within this department. And the filmmakers, I can only imagine when they were going through the program, like how the relevance of the techniques and everything would shift over time, where now it's like video has become king, even more so than still images, right? The transitions, the richness of the media transitions over time. And now all of a sudden if you, let's say, have your chops in terms of filmmaking, like that is now front and center.
That's right. Yeah. Remember when they used to tell you, being a film, this is crazy that you bring this up, because ever since I saw Ghostbusters, I told my parents, how do they make Slimer, right? And nobody could answer it. And it's a movie, and like, I want to make movies then, and I remember that. And I got to this point in my life where I was interested in going to NYU for film, but I took so much heat from my family about, never this, how many people make it in film. The film's not a real job. You're going to have to be on the set. You might not even get to the director or editor, or, it's just the whole, oh my God, what a collage of reasons why not to be a filmmaker. I ended up steering it the direction of mechanical engineering. So funny, because I myself found myself in physics classes and calculus and chemistry, and depending upon which way you went in engineering, it's more mechanical. Then you're dealing with more stress classes and just fluids and just all sorts of and like you, I always tell this story. It's funny because in the end of engineering, the very last year of engineering, we had this. We designed projects, and we had to do like this light board for people so that they could move their arms and hit the buttons, and it would get people moving again. We had to create a self flying for a paraplegic. He was and just had no use except his mouth, and I think his face. We had to create a kite flying machine where he could let the kite out and then bring the kite back in. And so all of these things had to be designed and presented. And let me tell you, the last year of engineering was like my time to shine, because it was like I was creating and designing. Made this. We had a very standard light system, and I pulled out my airbrushes and I turned it into like my spray paint, and I turned it into the solar system, and I made it a very visually interesting. And then I would redesign all of our presentations, and I think it was Microsoft. I forget what the program name was. You could create, I don't know if it was I can't remember what it was, but you could create these visual presentations with things moving and music. And I was like, I'll sit back. I'm going to make this so entertaining that we're not even going to have to present, I'm like, this is where I'm going to shine. I did so good the last year, but the first 3 years I was really struggling. Okay. So college, did you follow? Now it sounds like, because you did mention that when you got out of college, you took on your own design firm. But how did it get to that point? Because it sounded like you were doing physics and calculus and so how did it go? How did that transition happen? I get the aha moment, but how did the transition happen from physics and physicists to design and logos? I mean, between that there had to be some sort. I mean, you definitely didn't learn Photoshop wherever you were.
No.
So how did that all happen?
There's so I started taking I think it was after one semester of relatively hardcore multivariable calculus and physics. We were getting into flux and curl and other sorts of things where you have a stack of 4 equations and your answer is another equation. So I had to go, in order to switch departments, you have to go talk to the chair of the department. They have to approve the department you're exiting. They have to approve it. So I swear we talked about this in a space, or maybe like you and I or Josh and I got on a jag, but so I had to go.
You spoke to Josh, because right before the show when we were doing it, he was like, "This is the physics guy. This is the physicist." And I'm like, no. I'm like, Lord is the physics guy. He's like, no, this is the guy that played football for Harvard. And I'm like, no. I'm like, wait, I'll ask him. He's right here. I was like, and I'm like, and you were like, yeah. And I'm like, I don't remember him talking about physics or physics at all. So this is the first time I'm hearing it, but Josh remembered. And I'm like, nah, you got this guy mixed up with Lord. I'm like, Lord is the physics guy. You guys must have had a talk, because I didn't hear any of this, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I had to, in order to switch departments, because to the classes that you're going to want to take the next semester, right, they have to line up with what it is that you're doing, or I forget what they're called, tutors or whatever, but the overseers, right, that are kind of looking at what classes is the student looking to take. If they start seeing something in this, it was called the VE, like I said, the VES department. Why is this guy wanting to take these classes? Anyway, point being is that I had to go talk to the chair of physics of the physics department. Now, you end up building up, I guess, your street smarts over time. It wasn't exceptionally early, right? So I was still, call it a kid, right? So you're freshman, sophomore in like right in there in college. And so whatever age that had put me at 18 or something. And so I have to go in there and, this woman, to get to the point, the chair of the department, this woman with short cropped hair. She's 5'10", and she had this habit apparently of wearing these like knee-high, like leather boots. And so anyway, you go into the office and she's like, have a seat. And why are you here to see me? And it was just some sort of like, it was awkward as hell. And I explained that, like, well, clearly, if you look at my thing, like, you can sort of see what's going on here with my transcript. She's like, all right, well, signs the document and says, good luck. So I had to officially switch. And like I said, I was had no department for a while until things got inched back up to a certain level. But as a result, then you have to do it fast enough, because otherwise they want to maintain their 4-year graduation rate. That's a KPI, right? For people that aren't in business, key performance indicator. It's a huge metric. Like if you see the school rankings that come out each year, was it U.S. News and World Report, right? And where the schools fall, that's one of the key metrics. What percentage of students graduate in 4 years? So they want you very much to graduate in 4 years. Even the engineering students, instead of a 5-year program, they're like, nope, you're finishing it in 4. Like, so,
that's right.
Anyway,
that's right. Get ready for classes over winter and summer. That's right.
Yeah. So you have to, you got to have enough time in the schedule in order to be able to complete the various classes. The first one that you in that department, that call it pan art class, was all fine and good. The gatekeeper pair of classes that you have to take and you have to do reasonably well in, right? Again, this is an honors only department. There's 2 drawings. It's called, like, I don't know, drawing 10 and drawing 11 or something like that, or 10A and 10B, whatever they called it. Literally with black only, pencils. That's it. Now, you did get into a little charcoal later on for like the speed exercises and stuff, but this was a drawing class. If you could not do well with a simple pencil, just call it a day. You're done. And so those were the gatekeepers. You had 2 semesters of this. And so then there were other classes. So once you're on a track, I had certain professors that I very much revered. So there was one of the biggies was Toshi Katayama. So always had his cup of tea, very thick accent, brilliant designer. You can look him up. He's done things. He did the design work for Panasonic's headquarters. He's designed T stations. He's done all this other, there's a long list of work that he did. And I was catching these professors basically as they were on the cusp of retirement. And the key thing with all of this, like you said, you don't learn to use Photoshop. There was, during one of the classes, a pathetic little Mac over in the corner that had Illustrator on it, because in case you needed it for rendering some sort of logo related thing. Other than that, you're doing everything mechanical. These are fundamentals classes. If you can't even do it with a pencil, like, I don't care how fancy the tools are. And yes, there are some pretty extremely good tools out there now. Let's say you want to design a logo, and somebody sits down with you and says, I want you to design me a logo. You're a designer, right? Yes, sure I am. Okay, well, this is what my company is. This is what I do. These are the things that are important. This is the personality of the company. This is our audience, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just grab a piece of paper. Let's work out some ideas. You don't pull out your phone, your laptop, your tablet, whatever, right? Like, grab a pencil. You want to impress somebody. To this day, this is my opinion, grab a pencil and start sketching things. Literally the classic old school cocktail napkin sketch. Jotting notes, weird little things scribbled out and stuff like that. And that's where you end up with like a personal connection versus like, look what this tool can do. It's not the same. Relatedly, somewhat, these classes were fundamentals. You needed to be able to work up an idea. They didn't teach you how to use the tools. You can figure that out on your own. When it gets after graduation, that's where the school of hard knocks kicked in. I had my father's business experience to lean on, corporate business things, in terms of bouncing ideas off them, but going out and getting a client and marketing yourself and all of those things, that was just, you're not getting that in school. Like promoting yourself or going to find, a design client. Nope, you're on your own. You're going to learn the fundamentals here so you'll actually be a good designer. Good luck. So that's the transition. And so within the department, you actually do have to take, as a designer, drawing, sculpture. Of all places, I learned to use a oxyacetylene welding torch at Harvard. I started working in steel. And so etching, the etching, drawing, sculpture, photography, architecture, you had to design a house, urban planning, you had to design a park. So yeah, anyway, the list goes on. So you're well-rounded by the time you're done from a fundamentals, but good luck finding a client.
You definitely got a lot of experience throughout your school years. That's a lot of from the house and the park and the sculpturing. Do you think that was designed in a way to in case you didn't know where you wanted to focus? It was such, like, that's a really big range of classes and skill sets to be teaching. What was it? Yeah, I was gonna say that's experience, right? The more you try, the more you're gonna. Not back then. I mean, back then you're a kid trying to get out of school, but I feel like the more things that you dip your fingers, you're gonna learn very fast. If you like something, if you don't like something, and you're gonna gravitate to what you do like, and you're gonna leave behind whatever you don't like. So the more you try, the more you do, the more. So that's a very interesting array of classes to have. Also skill sets. So throughout finishing college and then making a decision on what to do next, is that the part where you started leaning into helping people brand or marketing? You want to talk about that a little?
Yeah. So I had an opportunity with enough money. So without getting too specific about it, my father at the time, around the time that I was graduating, a little before, he was retiring, big corporate entity. Part of the severance package, or the, I don't know, the exit gifts of sorts, was seed money. If you wanted to start your own consulting firm or whatever, it was enough as part of this broader thing to buy computers and desks and stuff like that. Pay for business cards or hosting provider, go, you in business anytime, right? You get that laundry list or the shopping list of stuff. Like, here, I'm going to set up, what do I need? So a couple computers and so on. So my attitude then was, if not now, this may be an opportunity that will never come again. So it's take it or leave it. This may be the only shot. And I knew that I knew nothing about, like, go out there, like, how are you going to get a client? My first client was a family friend who ran an IT consulting business. Like, it was a friend of mine's dad. Like, it was his consulting business. He's like, all right, let's see what you got, kid. And it was take an opportunity, take it or leave it, or just go and hack around. And I did look at ad firms, marketing firms, PR firms, things like that, in terms of a role that seemed like it would be a good fit within those. But I also think that Harvard's methodology, that's why I mentioned the fundamentals, their focus was more on the core capabilities and your eye, not necessarily on, like, here's step 1 through however many, to go work as a designer in the real world. So in that sense, I suppose you're better equipped in one regard and not as much so in the other. And yeah, so that was one of those things, and it ended up over time building up. But some of the same tricks, I will say, partly with suggestion, some of the same tricks I learned in school were useful in business and getting going. Like, to be specific, without turning it into story time, I had learned if I had to write a paper for a class, have the TA review it in advance and buy the teaching assistant a cup of coffee, right? And they'll review your paper and mark it up in advance and say, this is good, this is bad, get rid of this, add this. You forgot about this would be a valuable point. And you end up with this thing for the cost of a cup of coffee that basically says, here's the paper that's going to get you an A. All right. And you're told that you have the cheat codes, right? And I'm like, oh, this is great. So if it's in a design class, same thing. Show it to the professor, the teaching assistant. Even if it's horrible, if the professor says, no, this is all wrong. Like Toshi was legendary. He'd come over to the table, cup of tea in hand, and he would look and he'd say, okay, well, like I said, he had a very thick Japanese accent. I actually had to translate for other students sometimes because he was using Japanese word order with English words. So he's speaking English, but we called it Toshi's. And so you'd end up with responses like it this one. And it's out of context, sure, okay, that's clear enough. But when it gets more involved, then it gets difficult. And so there was a legendary time Toshi comes over to a fellow student. It honestly was not me. The student's saying, oh, well, look at this. I did this thing, blah, blah, blah. Look here, this is this, right? Very proud of their work. And I see Toshi's head start going back and forth. And I'm like, oh, man, just let it go. Cut your losses. And Toshi goes, no. Pats the guy on the shoulder. No. Start over. It's like, oh, man. And so whether it's Toshi himself, the teaching assistant, any of the other professors, same thing. Show them in advance and you get the cheat codes. They'll hand them to you. All right. This is what's going to get you an A. To the point during one of the final brutal critiques on a project that many of the other students in that studio class didn't know how much feedback I had gotten from Toshi. In this one particular instance, it was a poster design. It's for the Monaco Grand Prix in my case. And so my fellow students, they start picking it apart. And Toshi basically shut them all down and said, no, here's why it's good. Here. And basically said, shut up, without saying shut up. It was beautiful because I knew his feedback was in there. In business, when you partner with people in advance behind the scenes that will then help you. And it's like, how did he get into that role? How did he get to be the one that designed the merch or the whatever for this event or something like that? It's like, because I'm in good with the decision maker. Like, it's the cheat codes. So anyway.
When if I pretty sure I heard correctly. You said 11 years you worked in design?
Yeah, I flew my own flag for 11 years. And then I worked at I'm
not going anywhere. I just got to let my dog out. But I'm right here listening. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no worries. So, yeah, I worked at one of the women's colleges, women only. Most of them went co-ed. And this is still... women only. I worked there for about 3.5, 4 years. And so again, doing design work, but that was also at a time when the college, technically university, but anyway, college was going through an entire rebranding. So I was one of the in-house people that was pivotal in terms of making this all cohesive, because we were working with an outside firm out of New York City. And so for this entire rebranding thing, then you get the back pressure from inside. So making sure that the overall brand during this transition is then unified and everybody's on the same page. So I was working within the alumni department at the college for, like I said, about 3.5, 4 years doing the design work. You want to talk about a low bar to hurdle? Oh my God. That made me look good easily.
Your the 11 years. Maybe you want to talk. What was involved? Like, how would a project come in or a job come in, and what was the responsibilities? Now, were you the one designing, or did you? I mean, you mentioned you had a team of 30 that you were in charge of.
Oh no, that the team of 30, that was later on.
Okay.
That's business oriented. There was some creative stuff involved with that role. That was essentially, officially I was in senior management. Unofficially I was the fixer. And no, yeah, that was later on. That's with a state funded nonprofit up in Massachusetts.
Okay.
So no, but with as far as the design stuff, the branding, I'd get upstream referrals from places like printers or other vendors. The former clients would send people they know to me, or I'd get cold calls that say, "Hey, I was talking to so and so at an event, and I saw their card and their logo, and they said you did it." So, right, and the conversation goes from there. But so a lot of referrals. There was the Chamber of Commerce, which normally is like, you would think of like, I don't know, like maybe kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It doesn't have the power. This particular Chamber of Commerce had the power of the like big banks and law firms and real estate entities as kind of like the leadership, and some corporate entities. So you've got a lot of power in this particular Chamber of Commerce, which is essentially, it's just for networking. And I would end up with referrals through that as well. So plus I would get free advertising, right? You do enough good work for them pro bono, you get some pretty prime advertising spots within the whatever marketing is going out, marketing and collateral and all that. So that's basically where the work would come from. The branding part of it, a lot of times it would start with a logo. One of the important things as a designer is this is Microsoft, right? Big soul crushing megacorp now. Have you ever heard the origin story of what happened with Microsoft?
You mean when they were all in the garage designing together?
Yeah, even prior to that. So I'd have to reread some of the details, but so MS-DOS, right, came before Windows. This is like at this point computer ancient history. So things were in DOS. There's, God knows, in the federal government, there's probably still DOS computers running, but so you have DOS, right? It's all command line, right? Just like, the purists who want Linux and they want command line Linux. Same general concept, except you didn't have any choice. So the GUI was a thing that came with Apple's, right? But until Windows came around, your command line, right? So the beginning of Microsoft, the reason I brought this up is IBM makes hardware. What are we going to run on this? Right? And you've got COBOL and all that kind of junk. So point being is Microsoft went to a meeting and said, sure, we can provide you an operating system.
Right.
They didn't have one. Right. So then they go call a friend. It's like, hey, you've been doing some operating system like drafts and beta, alpha, beta work, whatever. Can you send us what you've got? Right. And so you end up with this. They're like, all right, fine, this will work. This will work. We'll run with this. MS-DOS, Microsoft Disk Operating System. That's what it stands for. The first one was QDOS. What's that stand for? Quick and Dirty Operating System. So, but they basically said, yeah, sure, we'll figure it out. No problem. Let's make a deal without actually having anything. They had to go figure out a solution with design clients. Let's say they come to me and they're like, yeah, our company, our corporate image, we need something like, I don't care if it was like early on, it's a HVAC contractor, plumbing and heating and all that. I need a new look. Okay, cool. Right. I need a logo. Well, then I'm going to need business cards. I'm going to need these other things to fill out, like estimates for clients with my logo, and I need them to look cool. And then I'm going to need, a website maybe, or I'll have, get. Point being is, don't ever say no or send them somewhere else and say, or give them ever the feeling of getting like kicked to the curb. Say, yeah, I'll work with you on that. I'll figure it out. All right. So then you end up being the person who has to, like, audio visual production, like going into a studio to do like pro level audio recordings with a, sound room and the whole bit. With a client, he wanted to do this thing. And so I was the one that was the go-to, figure out, everything from, at the time he was distributing CDs. But it's like getting the audio recorded, getting somebody to burn 1,000 CDs in a short period of time, doing the graphics for the face of the CD plus the jewel case or the sleeve. Like, find a vendor to create the sleeves because the place that burned the CDs doesn't make the cases, right? And so you end up with all this stuff, but it's just a series of yeses, well, figure it out, or no problem, I'll get back to you in a few days with a solution. And next thing you know, you end up doing everything from trade shows to AV production work and, distribution and logos and blah, blah, blah. Entire books and publications and newspaper things. And yeah. So
as we have a very, I was enjoying the story because we have a very similar background. When I had left college, I went and invested. So it was Windows 3.1, right?
that was the first go, I think. That's the first one I ever saw.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying. I remember I had it. I came on this computer, and right before that computer was, I was working in DOS, TSR 80. I don't know if you remember that Radio Shack computer. Yeah. So that was what I was working on. And so my mother had this bright idea that she was going to send me for coding. And they got me, they were smart. You know what they did? They got me a how to code video games or how to code and create video games. And I was typing away on that thing until I made this little, I remember how many lines of code I wrote. And I remember it was a racing game, and you a little race car. And then I started the game, and it was like error. I obviously typed a lot of mistypes. And I think at that point I was like, yeah, never mind this. This ain't for me because I don't even know. I'm not going back through all that code that I wrote. I never got that game to start. I think I fixed like 3 or 4 things in it, but I never got it working. But that was a TSR 80. You load these DOS games. I don't know if you remember the Commodore 64, but then moved to the I think it was Windows 3.1. I think that was my first computer. And I remember that, and I remember the evolution of that. Then I had a Packard Hell, and I got rid of that, and then I actually started building my own computers, and that was around college. But at that point in time, I was picking up so many different skill sets, and I was found Photoshop for the first time, and then everybody, you could design business cards. I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's no big deal. And the next one thing after the next, after then start branding and logos, business cards, CD covers. I got into it with printers, and yeah, it was like a whole 5-year period where I was pretty much doing the same that you sound like you were doing. So I was listening to the similarities in the story, and I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about, because you're learning along the way. You know, people are coming there, and you're like, you know how to do a foil card? And I'm like, can't be that hard. Let's see if we can figure it out, you know? And next thing you know, I was printing foil cards for somebody. And then once I learned how to do foil cards, I printed my own question mark foil cards, which I have, I think the last of the very first business cards I ever made for myself. I had this purple.
That's cool.
Yeah, I had this awesome purple foil card. I used to give it to people, and I used to sit back and just wait, and they'd be like, this is the coolest card. He go, I might never call you, but I'm going to always have this card. I'm like, that's the purpose. That's why I put the foil on it.
I did the same thing, different part of the card. I printed mine on, it was duplex cardstock. You get enough referrals from printers, right? They end up with these little bits of paper left over from jobs that's not used. Like, hey, we've got this, like, it's a pale stone granite colored cardstock that's like 130 pounds. You want to use this? And I printed my business cards. They were thick enough and rigid enough. You could cut a steak with them. And, but you know, it was a gimme job from one of the vendors. It was kind of a goodwill thing. Right. But people are like, oh, I think you handed me two. No, I didn't.
Yeah, I remember there was some papers that had a really nice, thick style, and you'd hand it to somebody, and people would be like, "This is a business card. This was really well done." So, okay, let's jump forward to how did the imagine 11. So I'm gonna say, at what age did you? Was it 30 that Massachusetts opportunity came along?
Yeah, thereabouts. Something
Okay.
like that. Yeah, 30 or early 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was I had started looking around. I had missed the higher education environment. I served during a summer term as teaching assistant for Toshi right after I had graduated. So that's quite an honor. Like, that's something I just could not turn down. Your former professor asks you to be his teaching assistant. Like, I had met the various teaching assistants in a few different classes that he worked with, and now you are elevated into that club. Like, even though it's a summer term, it's not a regular, like, one of the semesters, still. So officially, yes, I have been employed previously by Harvard University. What's my point? So that higher ed environment, sure, being in school, but also being, a slight taste of teaching, and the overall environment of the campus and so on. I had, to some extent, in various ways, I had missed it. So anyway, I started looking around, and anyway, this opportunity came along from, like I said, one of the women's colleges up in the New England area. And I think at the time there was still like 4 or something like that of the 7 sisters, as they were called, that were still women only. So a little experience being one of, 2 guys initially, then 3 out of our department of 15 to 20 people that were male. That was an interesting dynamic shift. So Yeah, that was pull up stakes, and I retained some clients. Some were more locally based, but I actually carried some clients with me in the move. So it was the move from Florida to Massachusetts, and so that was yeah, it was an adventure. I have family roots in New England, and admittedly, Florida's kind of it's a it's a running joke with a lot of people. Like it's a nice place to visit, but it gets to be sure if you miss things being green and fluffy and all that. You get down to Florida, you can pretty much throw a plant at the ground and it will grow. So, but after a while, the heat gets very old. So, anyway, it was in that regard, the day to day environment and things like that. It was great to be back up there. Cool opportunity. Back at college, the campus is beautiful, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Are you a question? Are you a puzzle guy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The puzzles are well, you mean in a strict jigsaw puzzle sense, or puzzles as in like the ones that I just noticed, like LinkedIn, for example, has puzzles that like daily things, just like Wordle, right? Except it's different stuff. There's one called Queens and Tango and something else.
I guess it, anything really. I mean, usually fix it guys, problem solvers are usually very big into puzzles. They like a challenge. I tend to find for myself that I get bored very quickly. So and I could feel it. As I
Yeah.
never, I never used to be able to feel it, but I could feel when I'm getting like to that point where I'm like, yeah, all right, been there, done that. What's next? What do we? What do we? And usually, the only thing that really keeps me is it's a puzzles. So I mean, they have all sorts. They have physical puzzles. It's just a challenge, right? You're constantly looking for a challenge. It sounds like you stepped up in the challenge department, and it is what it really sounded like. It sounded like a lot of times in business, they say that if you want to be very successful in business, you should constantly change your career or your business or start a new business every 7 to 8 years, because they say 7 to 8 years is that time period where things just start to, it's if you didn't get it by 7 or 8 years, you're not going to get it. And if you did get it, then it should be running on its own. And the solution or the challenge, you're way past that by the time it's that successful at 7 or 8 years. So at that point, they said that, just change a career, change a business, start a new business. And so I would imagine that the same type of people who get bored are the same type of people who probably realized a different challenge every so few years, every 7, 8 years. So how long now is that? Did you, because interesting, because I was going to ask, everybody who is in Florida who left up here to leave down there, I always ask them the same question. I say, listen, when you left for Florida, did you ever look back? Most times, most people say no, but it sounds like you might have missed it. And do you miss up here at all, or?
No, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still have friends up there, connections to some extent. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I do miss it. I miss the change of the seasons. Right?
That's what I was going to ask you. If
You come to Florida and it's like 3 cool or cold days. It's an exaggeration, and then the rest of the time it's warm or hot. Right? That's exaggerating a little bit, but that is kind of the vibe. And so, and that's why it's wonderful to come visit. right? Because if you're looking at trees with no leaves and there's dirty snow on the ground, everything's cold and frozen and different shades of gray. Like coming down here, like and like what's going on? There's flowers blooming, right? Palm trees, etc.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so then it's great, but then you get to leave with fond memories, and it doesn't get old, all right? As in the relentless heat where like you let's say you're gonna, I don't know, dress up for an evening out, right? As a guy, you've got, the shirt comes back from the laundry, nicely pressed, starched, whatever, all perfect, crisp, right? Give it 10 minutes outside in Florida, that the nice presses and everything gone, done. Poor women, right? They hair styled perfectly, right? They're like, oh, I look amazing, right? Go outside and poof, right? Frizz. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just different. Yeah. So yes, I do look back. That's why I like in my profile, it still says people, it's like I get these questions, and this is one of those things that I love. This applies to art, it applies to business related things, and even just day-to-day mundane things. I told you privately the code, right? That we talked about before, but I get the question even, it's like, where are you? And it's indicative of my looking back because it says location and it appears to be code. Unless you're used to flying, it's 3 airport codes: Boston, Providence, and Orlando. BOS, PVD, and MCO. Like, and so, the location, it's just good luck, pick one where I am at the time. I do come back up to New England periodically. So yeah, I do miss it. It's it's always a relief to come back up. But yeah, always looking for an excuse or an opportunity to head back up there.
You don't hear that a lot, but you made me laugh. I remember when we used to go to Miami, and I was a big fan of linen, and in the room I would always iron, have my linen perfectly, and I don't think I was outside more than maybe 2 minutes, and that linen had more wrinkles, and it was just a disaster. And as you're sweating, pouring from you, and like, man, it's hot. Yeah, so, but I like heat, but I've never heard anybody. Usually people are like, I never looked back. I'll tell you what, next time it snows, you come up here, you can shovel, you take care of everything.
Gladly.
I'll give you a real taste up here. Okay. So after the opportunity with that landed you in New England, how did you? Did you stick with that, or I'm going to imagine at some point in time, and I'm curious about also and you mentioned it earlier before we started the show, but the introduction to NFTs and art. And so was art anything that you were into? Well, I mean, obviously, because, logos and cards and all of that is an art.
Yeah.
I believe there's an art for everything, right? There's an art in everything that you do. I don't care if it's mowing your lawn to the way you organize your medicine cabinet. There's an art to everything. What's your art, right?
Yeah.
How did the whole transition take place? Or am I missing a time period in there? Am I missing something that kind of led up to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not relevant to NFTs. The in between that college and the other things, I ended up talking with colleagues. I ended up working for the state-funded nonprofit. It was a big one. Social services is generally what it is, but there's a team of people that were handling. So it was a residential location, call it a residential entity. And so the team that I managed handled operations and oversight and everything else, pretty much the entire property outside of business hours. So before 8 a.m. Monday and after 4 p.m. So Monday through Friday, right? The entire weekends, evenings, second and third shift, and all three shifts on the weekends. So that was the team that handled all of those times for this particular facility or entity. So that was doing your own thing as a designer. You're working with a lot of vendors. You're doing you have client relations, you have vendor relations, then just overall, I don't know, the image management and so on. So those the different facets of that. But then when you switch it to an internal team, right? Vendors are all at arm's length. You have your own, you recognize you have your own priorities. I have mine, they have theirs, right? Everybody needs to get paid. So, and you know, the vendor's happy, the client's happy, I'm happy, right? All that. But it's at arm's length. When you have a team of 30 people, or you know, roughly 30, you gotten a little bit bigger. And so now you're dealing with internal power struggles and varied capabilities, lifting up the people in the appropriate ways to you know, the make things better for them, right? You end up with this crossover of HR kind of work with getting things accomplished that need to be done. Plus, there was independent work from they needed to upgrade the entire phone system for the entire location. Who do they call? Me. We've got this problem. We've maxed out the number of extensions in this system that's been in place for the last, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years. Okay, let's see what's going on. So in one day, right, lots of things went into this. In one day, there's people that have, every desk has 2 phones on it. When the switch gets flipped, the old phones die and the new ones are live. Right? There's literally no downtime. And they're like, how'd you manage to pull that off? I'm like, planning, asking a lot of questions, right? Treating it like a designer, creative problem solving. So yeah, anyway, that's another like 7-year, thereabouts 7-year chunk. For family reasons, I had to come back down to Florida. Otherwise, I'd still be up in Boston. So yeah, I'm down here for the time being. We'll see how things go. So that role, that was an on-site role. I've done some contract related things since then, consulting and so on. There's somebody within the Web3 community I actually did some logo work for, and so so
You
to the point, I'm open to opportunities should anybody need a fixer.
Okay. I was gonna say, you in NFTs now makes sense because this does happen to be a very appealing, but not the simplest onboarding area when it comes to art. The exchanges, the wallets, everything that takes place. I'm not sure when you were introduced to it, but there's a time period where, especially in the very beginning when everything started forming, it's gotten a little bit easier now, but it's funny how all of the problem solvers, all of the fixers, all of the people who love tweaking things and fixing things. I think it's a riot how everybody ended up in the in the same area, and it's just funny how everybody gets along in spaces. It's just like all the and it's just the similarities. There's so many big brains. So because I didn't think it was I didn't think it was the easiest. I did not think it was the easiest. I remember the first day when I jumped into spaces trying to I heard about Beeple's big sale. I jumped right into spaces trying to figure everything out. It sounded like a completely new language to me. I'm like, you know what? This is pretty cool. I'm gonna hang out here. There's art here. There's a lot of artists. I really enjoyed spaces and meeting people. And then, over the course of 3-4 years, really started to get a good grasp on people's personalities. And so, man, I said, everybody who seems to like a challenge is in this place. Everybody else is just off doing whatever they're doing. But, man, some people like a challenge are all sitting in here. So you kind of like almost returned back to the art. And then I'm going to say, have you been implementing AI a lot into your life? I mean, what did you think as far as when you first got to the NFT scene and then being able to use, like, just learning everything that was going on? I'm curious what was going through your mind in terms of the art. And then, I do want to head over to the computer. I want to show off some of your art. But in the meantime, what was going through your mind in terms of like learning about everything? Or I should say, how did you get? I mean, you mentioned the musician that you followed had kind of led you into this, but I'm going to imagine that you didn't stay because of her. That you actually stayed because of you were seeing everything that was taking place. Yeah, I'll let you tell the story, huh?
This is We'll tell the initial part, and then if you don't mind, we'll find a way. I don't know, whatever works, to a brief intermission so I can step away for just a moment. But the first part of the story, the woman's name she goes by Verite, Verite. She is absolutely brilliant. She comes by it naturally. I think her dad's an engineer. Her mom is university professor in some form or another. Anyway, I enjoy her music. There's a lot of hooks in the lyrics that are things that you can attach memories and emotions and all that kind of stuff. Regardless, it's basically like alternative synth pop, whatever subgenre you want to put her in. But I enjoy her music. So I had gone to, I think it was 2017 was the first concert of hers that I had gone to. And then she mentioned that she was looking into NFTs, and she had talked to he goes by 3 Lau. I think his name is Justin or something, Blau. But anyway, it's the 3 LAU. He was doing some innovative stuff. She's obviously coming from the music industry. So how do we work this, right? So she's done a couple things since then where there was revenue sharing based on the price of the sale of a one-of-one NFT, etc. Did some pretty cool stuff early on. Like Bieber did a thing with revenue sharing. She'd already done it a year before. But I was curious, and the prices were definitely up there. This was 2021. So I'm a late comer to the overall scene. I forget exactly when, or 2020, somewhere in there. Things that had already ramped up in the last cycle.
I was the same. I came in the same time.
Yeah. So things are already in full swing. Clubhouse rooms full of BTC maxis were like all the rage. Right. I got laughed out of a space because there was some maxi that, God forbid, you vary from the known things. Right. I could tell you a whole ancient history story as it pertains to crypto. It goes to like 2001 or 2002. But anyway. So my entry into NFTs and all the rest of that, I was on the trading side. And so there's a guy, Crypto Jack. I think it's like Crypto Jack Live. So I found his stream on Twitch, and I'm like, oh, this guy's not like a pump and dump guy, or hey, you have to buy this. There's no crazed BTC maxi things going on, right? This is balanced, right? This guy's cool, he's smart, right? So I got into, this is all just trading, no NFTs. So after one of the streams, I ended up talking to another gentleman who was tiptoeing into NFTs. And there was this kind of like side group discussion on Discord. And there was a young kid, and he was talking about, and I don't know if it was when Artifact was getting going or what exactly it was. He was talking about digital sneakers versus physical. Like basically, he was talking about digital things back then. And he's like, hey, you got to check this out, man. And so this friend who I had known through these trader and technical analysis streams started looking into it. And this was when Zed Racing, right, was a thing. And so he starts looking into those, you know, buying horses and doing stuff. And so he started tiptoeing in, as did I, because Verite had said, well, I'm releasing these. The prices, like I said, were very high, appropriately so, for these songs. But then you just start like looking around. And so I end up involved with, there was it was intended to be a typical 10K PFP project called Alias. And that's actually part of the basis for my my own PFP, which is kind of is customized, but it's based on from that project. And so you buy in. It was crazy at the time. Like I think each one of them cost like 0.05 or something. It was not cheap. But anyway, so you get into, so I'm on the Ethereum side, right? To some extent, I guess Polygon pieces were still a thing. Base didn't even exist, I don't think. And then, God forbid, right? There was, as a gift to all holders, an artist friend did a piece and he released it on Tez. And it's this very I forget the term, that when it goes against religion, sacrilegious thing, right? So it was based on the Last Supper. So he did this piece that was based on this PFP project, and it was a gift to all holders, but it was on Tez. So now you got to go get a Temple wallet or some sort of Tez wallet and just give your address. That right there was the entry point into this world that I had no clue of the whole Tez art scene. And, you know, 2000, I don't know how many pieces I now have in my collection. But so there's that, there's the ETH side, there's, you know, you end up just finding your way. You kind of find like the people that you resonate with along the way.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was just, there was a couple things where it was like the interest from Verite, and then this PFP project that ultimately was kind of it was mismanaged, right? When you get back to it, business is business. They mismanaged it. They sucked at business.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm just thinking about this now. You being a fixer, being in a world of projects where people, I mean, 99% of these things have been probably a lot higher, have been managed or Go ahead. I'll let you finish, but that must drive you nuts.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's the things that there are things that there's the live in the moment aspect of things that trying to pre-plan everything and the rigidity that could come with that, right? Not necessarily a good thing, but there's some stuff you got to have in place beforehand, right? Like, for example, you're going to do a project like this with a relatively high price in a saturated market, right? Which leads back to the question, do you do this in this form or do you not, right? Or do you differentiate within the marketplace in a better way? There's 10K PFP projects everywhere by this point. This one, I thought, from a brand awareness standpoint, social climate at the time, all the rest of the stuff, that this was actually based on the old Guy Fawkes Anonymous mask with all these different traits, but I could see the bricks start to fall out of the wall when they're clearly giving away too much money. They're not good at marketing. There's not enough awareness. The traits for the PFPs themselves were, to me, visibly self-serving, or they had the blinders on a little bit. For example, there were things that were some like trippy related things, sort of like slightly hippie-ish. Some other things that had rainbow tones in them. Well, okay, let's ensure that, like, for example, anybody that might be interested from the gay community, right? Is this something? Get information from the audience. Hey, do you think this is cool? Is this something you like? Right? Do your market research in advance, right? How many hippies, who from the LGBTQ plus community, right, might be interested? Like, know your audience, right, to find out what's going to work, what's not, right? So right there from the building blocks of this thing, I'm looking at it analytically, like, I don't know, if somebody gets these particular traits for the piece, they're going to want to dump it into the floor. Like, I don't know that this is going to, right? So I start raising all these questions, and you have to find solutions for them. But at some point, you just kind of throw up your hands and you're like, screw it, let's see what happens, right? FAFO. So that project is just one. That's one that I was close to. But seeing the hemorrhaging of money, the mismanagement of things, it's there's, I think, fundamental perspectives that could be brought to bear that would help a lot of things that have potential, then build up momentum, greater momentum, either faster or better or both, in order to be successful, or to, it's. But at the end of the day, when you say, what are all these things? They're small businesses, right?
I'm going to imagine that you're referring to the PFP projects, yes?
Well, yeah, sure, any of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
You start a chain and you want traffic on the chain, what purpose does it serve? Right? Or even a layer 2, right? Or whatever it is, like, what purpose does it serve? I know somebody who was involved with a specific layer 2. They got a contract with a big tennis tournament in terms of the tickets are all NFTs. They were tokenized. I'm like, cool, there's a good use case for it, right? But then you push it further, right? You become the chain that is known for sporting events, right?
Yeah.
The secondary market for sporting events. How do you integrate this in terms of the marketplace where it remains tokenized, start to finish? Work with the vendors that are currently handling that to bring them in so they've got skin in the game. Like, whatever. Yeah. So yeah, but it's small businesses, and the morbid fact is that it's a very high percentage will fail. But yeah, well, the PFP projects and things like that, and it got to be a running joke, right? Which animal is next, right? Because you got cats, dogs,
Penguins.
apes. What was it? The llamas? Is that basically what, like, utes and stuff like that are?
Well, I think Utes. Is that right? And you got so many things that you got. Rabbits, cats are a big one. You got apes. A lot of people got apes. I haven't seen llamas.
Amongst the gutter gang, you had dogs, cats, and the gutter pigeons. Actually, there's some of those that are actually kind of cool looking.
Utes. The only thing that comes up for Utes is my cousin Vinny.
But you have Basie and you've got CryptoPunks, right? Those are the two biggies, and then you've got Pudgies. They've got Real World. I don't know where I should know more about this, but in terms of the merch and the ubiquity of the Pudgies, where that is, they cut a deal with who was it, Walmart or Target or something like that,
Yes.
in terms of
Yeah.
having physical
Well,
items,
yes. Yeah.
branded items. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think Doodles. Do I have that right? Doodles.
yeah,
Doodles is doing okay. Actually, much better than okay. They just had they designed the whole McDonald's after Doodles. The Penguins are doing. They went the Walmart and merchandising route. Uh, what else out there is doing? You have Ape, these board apes. They have
yeah.
the Ape Chain now as well, which it
Mm,
seems like their Ape Chain is focused on one out of one art. They're putting more focus on the one out of one art. So through basically, if you have one out of one art with physical. So they're focusing on a piece of art with a physical. And so that's where Ape Chain and then the Bored Apes are focused on. You have the Cyberpunks, but I think they're just, I think that's, do I have the right Cyberpunks?
CryptoPunks. Yeah.
CryptoPunks. Thank you. I always
Yeah.
screw that up. I always call them Cyberpunk CryptoPunks. Thank you. You have the CryptoPunks, but I don't think there's much of a business behind that. I'm trying to think. There's Azuki.
Yeah.
I do like Azuki a lot.
Nouns has the Nouns DAO. I overall I don't know what the score is with that, but I do know that there's an amazing artist, Lambie. There's Oshi Gallery down in Australia. I think it's Melbourne, but there's literally a Nouns Deli, like a physical brick and mortar entity, right, with the Nouns branding. So the DAO's funded things that end up extending the reach. But
Hey, I know you mentioned that you needed a break.
yeah, if you don't mind, I'll step away for a moment.
Yeah, do your thing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over to the computer and I'm gonna set everything up so we could talk about and show everybody some of the art.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
Cool.
meet you back over there.
All right.
All right.
Be right back.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
No worries. All right, guys. A chance to meet Thom, listen to Thom's story. I'm going to reset up the computer at this moment so that we can take a look at some of Thom's art. Okay, let's get this. Let me switch the camera 1, 2, 3 here so you can check me out. Okay, there we go. Then we're gonna go full guest. Okay. And then we'll go full art guest. Very good. Very good. Okay. I'm gonna shrink this screen. Where is Thom's page? I put it underneath. No, I put it here. I guess comments are not working in X. I'm actually grateful that even X has the ability to broadcast right now, especially with everything that's been going on with X. I'm happy at the fact that X, the broadcast, I didn't even think the broadcasting was going to allow us to take, for this show to be possible. To be honest with everybody, because right beforehand, when I went to go live on X, gave me all sorts of errors and all sorts of problems, and I said, "Oh shit, this is not what I need to find out right now." But it actually ended up going live, and unfortunately, it looks like there's some issues with the commenting system. So no big deal. If you guys are trying to leave comments, I apologize because I'm not seeing them. I don't know if you're even able to leave comments. So sorry about that. If you have a question or want to leave a comment, I would suggest jumping over to IG and leaving a comment there. Okay, let's see. This. Very good. All right. Bring this on. This. Okay, I got his page up. We're gonna bring up his link tree. That's the X. Okay, so Tom, I have okay, so what I have right now, hang on. Owned. Interesting. 2100 works of art, huh?
That's where I made it up to.
Yeah.
I always look for. I try to glance periodically. Like I think it had already made it over 2,000 when I looked at it, because to like take a little screenshot of the happy numbers, like 2,000 on the nose or 2121 or something like that.
So you've actually become quite the collector as well.
Yeah. So there's the Hofnarr.eth wallet. If you let's see, there's a foundation link on there. Anyway, the collection, if you look at it through OpenSea, it's not appropriate for all ages, considering all the rodeo posts that are going to show up on ETH. But yeah, and Tez has been that's become home. Right. For a long time, the gas fees were so high on Ethereum. All right, it better be worth it. It's a special thing. Like, for example, Natalie Shaw, I have some of her works that were like just must-haves that are on, I think it's ETH mainnet, not base or whatever layer 2. So yeah, that's a little more. Like ETH, for example, I don't know, a bunch of plots in a metaverse called The Man Who Sold the World, and assorted other things, some things by Sabet and so on. Tez is where, and this is like, we were just talking about 10K PFP projects, right? For a while, that was the meta, right? Or at least that was kind of my impression. That's where all the focus was for quite a while. And art for art's sake lived over on this other side, alive and well, on Tez, like via object. Hickett Nunk went object, I don't know, absorbed or took him over or whatever. You've got FX Hash, where some people do some really amazing work that's focused on more generative. Like, I've seen a guy, he did, was just talking about it in a space a night or two ago. I was cruising around FX Hash, right? Tez based. I think you can do other chains, but it was Tez only for a while, I think. And I'm looking at this, and there were some of these things that it looks like a Monet painting. It's all code. P5JS or whatever was whatever's under the hood, it was generating these Monet landscapes. You know, the brush strokes and the whole bit. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is extraordinary. So it's like all this, the depth of the art that lives on Tez, it's wild. So
I was, I have this saying, there could be a nuclear, the planet could get wiped out from a nuclear explosion, and Object and Tez artists would still be selling back and forth. I always talk about how great a platform, in the beginning, if you would have heard me speak about Object, you probably would have been repulsed, because I was like, I don't get this object thing. It kind of feels like a flea market. ETH seems to be where the real art is, and this object thing is just like cheap art. And I don't feel like selling something for like $1.50, and I don't know if I feel comfortable with that. But then, as I grew past that, and I started looking at everything and the functionality, and watching sites come and go, and over the course of 3.5 years, I'm watching things go down, and there's no real stability. And I swear, all the Tez people, all the object people, everybody's so happy over there.
Yeah.
Everybody's selling art. Everybody, and then you gradually saw the price tags of the Tezos works of art start changing. Some people started putting stuff up for 1,000 Tezos and things to 500 Tezos. So things started eventually finding a little bit more of an expensive price tag, which was nice to see. But Object Man, out of all the sites, they keep rolling and they keep rolling. And no matter what happens, no matter who goes, and you're right, the gas fees made things terribly difficult. Solana came along, and exchange art, and so Solana started catching a lot of fire because they had the same gas fees until they ran into all those problems where things, mostly because of the meme coin transactions, started bogging everything down. They weren't ready for that. But mostly, the reason Solana did so great was because of those low gas fees. They didn't really have a great platform. Platforms started to become developing around that time. And then, I kept slowly going back to Object. And I'm like, man, this Tez community and this Object, they really nailed it, right? Because that, and I think Magic Eden is a really good platform. I think OpenSea is trying to make a little bit of a comeback, but I don't know. They left such a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Then, you have Foundation, who created Rodeo to help them stay afloat, which it's strange because Foundation still remains to be one of the most active sites, a top 5 sites. Interesting, because here you are with almost 2,100 pieces collected. Nothing seemed to deter you. Did you by any chance did you get a Rococo on? I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Rococo project. It's a 10K project that's on Object. It happens to be one of my favorite projects, but I like everything that they're doing. They seem like they really have their shit together.
I'll have to go look. The name sounds familiar. It's something that I did not, unfortunately, get into, and I have a feeling it's one of those that this will be another FOMO situation. But I'll go take a look for sure.
Yeah, no, they're still very low. It's still but nice little project they got going on. I did a show with Ali, and it's just a nice little, and they're consistent, and everything matches, and it kind of reminds me of one of those bigger 10K projects that are over on that are like Apes. It's got the same similarities, so it's a very feel good project. Okay, so I have your art page up now. But I also have your own page. I flashed that for a little bit. What are your I've the Tezos price tag didn't seem to even phase you at all. If anything, it motivated you to pick up and purchase more art. When compared to Ethan, and do you see any difference? I mean, or do you just see the art?
I see the art, and it is something that this is there's a site component of this, I suppose, and then you get into I don't know how you would describe it. All right, this has been the source of many conversations. The various chains, right, regardless of where things are on the platform, good, bad, or indifferent. So the different chains end up with their default characteristics. The art itself, right? Everything's digital, right? It's not like you said, well, okay, I'm going to work in oil, right? Physical art. I'm going to work in oil. right? And throughout history, as some artists have done, they're going to work on a prepped board of some sort or another, right? You'll see oil on board or acrylic on board or whatever. Oil on canvas, right? So you've got the base and you've got the medium. And you say, okay, you make that choice. You can't change that choice, right? So your work of art is forever going to be, let's say, an oil on canvas. Great. If you create art, I don't care whether you're a photographer, painter, illustrator, generative, like you're working with code, artist, or AI or whatever it is, and you say, okay, I'm going to try this out here, right? Let's say it doesn't sell, doesn't find its audience there, just based on who's there, whatever's going on. The volume, of course, on object, because of the prices, it seems to be still much higher. But you can just burn that and relist it somewhere else. Just torch the thing, assuming like none have sold. You don't end up with like a reminting something that's already sold. Of course, is not cool. But let's say it doesn't sell, and you just burn it. You put it on another chain. It was on Tez, now it's on base L2, or you put it on ETH mainnet, or you put it on Solana, or whatever, ape chain. You can move things around. But what ends up happening, though, is I guess maybe, I don't know if it's a function of the, there's this perception difference. The perceived value issue, and what is a high price, what's a low price? On ETH versus Tez, just take those two examples, very different. My impression early on, when I first started collecting, and there was Marina, there's MADO23 is, well, there's some underscores in there, but she was amongst some of the first artists, somewhat impressionistic style to these pieces that she'd released on Tez. What I saw was her prices on Tez would incrementally go up, right? So it was literally like 8 Tez, right? Next thing you know, it's like, I don't know, 13, 25, 35, 45, 55. Then she released pieces on ETH mainnet, either on Foundation or Known Origin or somewhere. And so it's almost like Tez, my perception through her and other artists, that it was the test bed. Let's see if the audience likes it, because the transaction fees are cheap. I can try this out, see if people enjoy my work. I've created and released my work and gotten the, I don't know, endorphin boost out of this. And then if it's successful and people are enjoying it, then I can do some things on ETH, right? And the perception of what's a reasonable price is going to be calibrated differently. That's, this goes back, that perception, of course, is like, our hypothesis was like 4 years old at this point. But then I just started to see the depth of what was going on. And I have pieces by, I don't know, to name names, like there's no Violet Bond, right? Her work there was this huge exhibition that got extended, and it was in Paris, right? And she was there in person, and it was all these works that she had done, photographic works. And so you end up with this high art coming into Tez, and the photography that I have, and I don't know, I'd have to go and look through my portfolio, but the depth of all of that, then I started to see, well, you look past the perceived value and the fact that the prices, it's almost like there's a market force to keep prices lower. And it's whether you say, well, like you said, it's a flea market, oh, this is cheap art, or do you say, for whatever reason, this is here, and I appreciate this. And then, with the art history that had to come along, that was other classes within that department right from school, including my professor with an Elton John fetish. That was interesting. Yeah. You end up learning about true high art and analytical capabilities and all that. So you look at these works and you say, technically they're good, artistically, compositionally, the palette, the blah, 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 right? There's no reason this is not good art, but it is nonetheless on this chain at this price at this marketplace. So So an automatic yes, right? Even more reasons for a yes. So
Well, it's interesting too because you had mentioned Sabet, right? And
yeah,
so a lot of times you could see it as a way of getting someone's art that you're a fan of for maybe a little bit of a better price than you're not used to, or maybe you don't have the budget or can't spend on a higher piece of art. But then, oh look, they put something over here that maybe I could take a peek at. That's relatively priced pretty reasonable.
yeah,
You hear a lot of that too. I never thought of the testing bed idea though. That's interesting. The whole testing. Let me see how this works. Let me see how the audience responds to it. Have you you mentioned rodeo? I hear
yeah.
quite a few people enjoy rodeo. Have you ever messed around with drip at all, or you
Oh
no?
yeah.
Okay,
Courtesy of Drip, I have a gazillion pieces on what the underlying chain is Solana for Drip,
Solana,
right?
correct? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a Solana wallet absolutely jammed with artwork now, courtesy of Drip.
Okay,
And
okay.
some of it's just, I don't know, it's fun, it's experimentation, it's, whatever. Like there's someone who does this there's a series called like Rico Diary. And I'd have to go back and look at who the artist is. Somehow I found him or her, and I'm like, wow, from a photographic standpoint, whether it's snapshots or a moment in time, right? It goes to the Karl Lagerfeld. There was a quote of his that I absolutely love. And he said, it's paraphrasing, he said, what I love about photographs is they capture a moment that can never be recreated. And so there's a sense of place and time potentially in a photograph. And so like that series, and the person's been putting them on Drip, and it's snapshots, and I look at it photographically, I'm like, there's a lot of these that have merit. It's cool. And you're like, serious, whatever it is, like 10 droplets per piece. Like, come on. Obviously, like click, click, click. Every time I go in there, it's like unsecured pieces, and it's however many hundred. And I'm like, oh, here we go, get a cup of coffee. Rodeo is the same thing. All right. Now, I'd like to hear your perspective on this too, because I have thoughts, but I don't know. It's not like actionable thoughts. It's like, okay, that's great. You've analyzed this. Now, what are you going to do with that information? All right. Well, so here's the thing: Drip and Rodeo, put them together, and I've had a conversation via DMs, like here and on Twitter and or X and on Telegram, repeatedly about this and looking at this from different angles and pros and cons and so on, and her expressing frustrations as well. So here's the issue: the art may be absolutely outstanding. Those external forces, whether it's the chain that it lives on, the platform that it lives on as a result, those influences, could call them variables, right? If you want to put it in some sort of math equation, you say, all right, those have very strong influence. The art it may deserve to sell for $5,000 and hang in whatever museum. However, it is being sold for $5 or $10. You have socioeconomic issues that are another variable, right? The perception of what is a decent price for a given piece, depending on what the local economy is, because there's no borders. We're in a worldwide economy. So wherever the artist physically lives, right, is going to also have an influence. So you end up with all these variables and stuff like that. When you then have a dynamic like Drip, what was there's another one that was like a precursor. It was almost the preamble. I'm blanking on the name. Actually, I think I have a tab open. Whatever. It's the one where you had to mint one piece and you got 10 credits and you could get 10 pieces. So you basically you had to play to play, like it wasn't pay to play. So literally you could not buy credits. You had to mint something and put it out there, even if it was trash, in order to get your 10 credits, but you couldn't get any more than 10 credits at a time, and you collect 10 pieces, right? So it was essentially this trading, 10 for 1 trading. Fast forward to Rodeo and Drip. Courtesy of the same trading guy that first got into, started getting into NFTs, he mentioned Drip to me long before it got popular and as big as it was. And he's like, here, check this out, dude. It's pretty cool. Drip House. Yeah, you go in there, you follow all these people, you do this thing, you get some artwork. He's like, you'll love it, man. It's awesome. And I was like, yeah, okay. And I sniffed around a little bit. And then once it had already picked up steam, then I got more heavily involved. I absolutely, for one thing, just blanket statements, I love Drip and I love Rodeo, right? From a collector's standpoint, right? People generally in this ecosystem for now know me as primarily a collector. It has those DM conversations, the key, the central point to this, and my view on this, and this is, like I said, I wanted your opinion, it is the commoditization of art. When it gets to a point where I understand the social aspects and things, but on the artist's side, if you are already popular, it's going to go well for you. If you are trying to make your way, the commoditization is not necessarily where that falls is not necessarily a good thing, right? So you're having to nonetheless put forth the effort into your work in the form that you want it to be, whatever your medium is and all that kind of stuff. The amount of time, the upfront expense, whether you're working digitally or physically originally. So that's where I'm like, this is so ridiculously cheap. Like, I am getting something of whatever artistic merit for what is one. I mean, I just buy on Rodeo. I'll just get 100 credits at a time, and it's $20. And I'm like, that means that each one of these is 20 cents. And it's costing me, like, this is crazy. So that's where I'm just like, I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Good question. Okay, here's what I'm going to say. That I don't want to be negative, and I'm not being negative at all. I'm not saying this in a negative way. PFP project, right? When you're buying into a PFP project, you're buying into something, a company. As they grow, as they complete projects, Doodles, right? Doodles they did a deal with a McDonald's where they recreated the whole design of the McDonald's to look like a Doodles. Pudgy Penguins hit Walmart. Yep. You're seeing things happen within these communities. Bored Apes, they got, I don't know if you've ever been on the Bored Ape website. Awesome website. A Kid Called Beast, another one of my favorite projects. Azuki. There's substantial things behind these PFP pictures that create value for these PFP pictures, which then in turn raise the value of these pieces so that they could become lucrative in trading or holding or whatever you want to do with it, right? So they've attached a particular value to these pieces, which make them you want to attain one. You want to grab one. You want to be part of the project. You want to be part of whatever's going on. You want to buy 10 of them. You want to buy 20 of them because, hey, you don't know. Maybe in the future I could sell off 15 of them and keep my favorite 5 and make a profit, right? So that creates a system or value. It creates a value to these works of art, to these PFPs, to these degenerative collections, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to get out the way, right? Because that is a system of value. Then you come to the meme world, the meme coin world, and it's just strictly profit, gambling and profit. You know,
Yeah.
I'm going to put $10 in on Black 5 and Black 7, right? And let's see, let's something might hit. And I'm going to come out of it a big winner, right? And then you have the artists, right? And you got the artists, but there's no profit from the artists. There's no profit margin. You know, the investors and collectors don't view it as a PFP project. It's a piece of art. Well, I can't flip it. I can't make profit off it. I can't do anything with it, which then in turn makes it worthless to a lot of collectors if they're not looking at it in terms of I'm investing in the artist. I love their art.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's putting your faith in the artist and their future, right? While at the same time, if you say, well, I get a piece of art that I may or may not want to, have a digital display on my wall or print this thing out or whatever. Like, so that's, it always says personal print rights. So you could print out a 20 by 30 poster of whatever piece it is you bought from an art standpoint. But you're also, you're indeed, you could say on one hand, betting on his future.
Okay,
or,
wait. Hang on. Let me get the other half of this out. Hang on.
Okay.
Because you're going to finish my sentence for me. Because you're one of the few people I've ever heard. I've heard a lot of people. No, I haven't heard a lot of people say it. I say it so much. I think I hear a lot of people say it. You're one of a few people who have said it, investing in the artist because you like the artist, because you like their art. So now you look at the art and the artist as an investment. You're watching their career. You're watching them blossom. You're watching them bloom. You're watching them create more art. So there's value there for you. When every meme coin buyer, when every meme coin buyer views it the way you view it, we will have an amazing ecosystem, right? But they don't view it like that. They don't care about this end of it. And so I look at it like this. Until that switch flips, this is a tool in your toolbox. It's not the whole fucking thing, right? It's a hammer, but you just don't have a hammer. You have clippers, you have screwdrivers. You have lots of different tools, right? And so if you're an artist, I think you should be focused heavily on this being a tool in your toolbox, but not the whole thing. You should be looking at social media revenue, whips, work in progress videos. You should literally be utilizing Rodeo, Drip, Object, every platform you can. Right? This space itself is a very healthy space. You have access to a lot of different galleries. You have access to a lot of different people who are in the art world. You never know what this is going to lead to. You also have the ability to submit your art and get it on shitloads of screens in front of people, right? Times Square, Japan, China. Your art can be everywhere before you even get there, and there's no cost. You don't have to print out a print. You don't have to send it in a frame. There's no shipping. People are investing in the artists and the art. So there is lots of positivity here. But if you're coming in here thinking you're going to make a living out of this, I don't know. That's a mindset thing, right? What Think and Grow Rich. Manifestation. What you think and what you believe will happen. So if you believe your artwork is worth $10,000 or 6 ETH or 1 Bitcoin, right? There was a musician that sold a track, I think, for 1 Bitcoin. But she believed that her track was worth that 1 Bitcoin. And so someone else also believed that. Let's take the Beeple, for example, right? Everybody looks at Beeple and came bombing in here saying, somebody sold digital art for $69.3 million. How fast did this, right? How fast did everything fill up from that? Like 100,000 new people were in spaces talking, chatting. What, right? And then they would go put their art up and be unsuccessful sale. But nobody looked at the behind the scenes of people. People created those, he was at that. He had a following of 1 million from Instagram, from social media. So when he came into this platform, there was something to build on. He wasn't an artist with 1,000 followers or 100 followers who came in thinking they were going to crush everything. He had a very large following. So within that million net or that 2 million net, there was somebody in there with the right financial capability who said, I'm going to invest in this guy. And then that's what created all the stir and the hype. There's got to, I often say, let's take, you know who Todd McFarlane is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So let's take Todd McFarlane.
I'm thinking of the right guy that did like Spawn. And,
yes. Yeah.
The comic book company, right?
Right. So Todd McFarlane is on Drip. I don't know if you ever came across his profile.
I hope so. I'll have to go check.
So he's on Drip. He puts up his comic book art. It's the only place where he is. I think he was on Mallow, but he's also mainly on Drip.
Okay.
Right? So he puts up one piece every week, and I don't think the piece, I could be wrong. I don't think so. I would have to Google this, but the last I remember, it didn't really strike me as a price that a Todd McFarlane piece should go for. Is
he doing daily releases, or is this just like auctions? He's just doing auctions.
No, I don't know. Not an auction.
Okay.
It's a piece that goes up that's based on leaderboards.
Oh yeah, okay.
So whoever's but the leaderboard doesn't really go any higher than maybe like 70, 80K. Right? Yeah. And you're talking about Todd McFarlane here, which I think probably changed the game of comics, the way comics looked.
DC, I don't know. Yeah, I'm not the best in terms of the comics, like that scene, but I got the impression that Marvel and DC were like the ones, unless you got into Japanese, that overall scene.
He was like a different breed of artist when it came to comics. Like when you opened up a Todd McFarlane, it was like you knew he created it, because it looked completely different. It was like another level of art involved in, like most comics were like very flat, where all of a sudden his comics you looked at you were like, holy shit. And then comics started to turn and get better artists and get better, the art was everything. So here's Todd McFarlane, and but then there's other projects on there that are going for thousands on Drip. And they're not a Todd McFarlane. They don't have the real life success of Todd McFarlane. They don't have a comic book company. So to me, it's like, Okay, Todd accepts the fact that in real life he probably has a fortune, right? But in NFT world, he's selling, for a very low price, which doesn't seem to bother him. He continues to post religiously every week, one at a, one. I think it's every week. I think it's an auction every week. So my view is, it's a piece of a puzzle. It's not the entire thing. Right?
Yeah.
You have social media. You have, okay, you know what, Tom? I say this a lot of times. You create a piece of art and you record the screen. You create a piece of art and you record the screen. Or you shoot a photo and you record how you shot the photo and you make a whip. You put the piece of art up. Let's say you put it up for $1 million, right? But on the flip side of that coin, you have the whip. And let's say the whip goes viral and you get 50 million views. Or, you know what, let me make this more realistic. You put the piece of art up for 100,000, but then you have the whip, and the whip goes crazy and brings in 50 million views, and now you get 100,000.
There are some works that I've seen where the whip, the line art, I like better than the final piece.
Okay. So now let's say this thing goes crazy on TikTok, or it goes crazy on YouTube, or it goes crazy on a monetizable platform, and you monetize it and you see the monetization from those 50 million. And let's say you make the 100,000 from the monetization. Now, are you going to be upset that the work of art didn't sell for 100,000 because you made your 100,000 through monetization? It's still your work of art. And on top of it, because it went so viral, it might bring the price of the work of art up. And now that price of that art might be worth 100,000. And so then someone might invest in it as an NFT, right? I'm a physical guy. I've always been big into physicals. So that you have galleries. There's paintings, galleries. People love physicals, hanging them on their wall, right? You don't have the option with that sometimes with NFTs. Sometimes you just have digital show rights. So to me, this is like, if you're an artist, this is another, be an octopus, right? This is another arm of, so you have galleries, you have physicals, which I would be taking advantage of. You have social media and social media revenue, which I would be taking advantage of. You have merchandise, Shopify. You have that, you could put your art on coffee cups, T-shirts. What happens if an artist buys your work of art because you put it on a sweatshirt and they went up on stage in front of 1 million people and they were wearing your work of art on stage because they liked the sweatshirt that they bought for $100, right? And now everybody wants to buy a sweatshirt. And so now your store goes nuts because some artist, Chris Brown or who knows, somebody big, Bieber or whoever's up on stage, somebody wore that work, right? So my thing is you're an artist, you're creating the art. You have all of these ways to get your art out there. This is just another way. This is not, it's not an, what's that phrase goes, all your eggs in one basket? Yeah, so, there's going to be stories where people sell for 100,000, 200,000, 300. I think X-Copy just made a sale for 200,000. There's going to be stories of where you hear NFTs selling for a lot of money, but there's a reason why they did. There's a reason why people sold for what he sold, because he had a fan base of 1 million people on he had a big reach. So you don't know if a sheik saw his art and was just like, I like this guy, and dropping, right? What 69 million is for a sheik is something that's extraordinary for someone making 100,000 a year.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It just means that, you got your reach. Your reach is important for an artist, right? And this is part of that. This is part of that reach. I don't see any reason why nobody should take advantage of what's going on in here. But if you're coming storming in thinking you're making the next $69.3 million sale, you better have that reach like Beeple had. because that's what, when he posted and I'm doing 5,000 and I did one a day and this is, 15 years of work. There was a story behind that sale. There was a story behind what happened, where most people just hear NFT sells for 69 million. NFT sells for 69 million, and then everybody thinks they have that opportunity.
Yeah, it's actually 5,000 pieces of art.
Right. Right.
69 million.
Right.
Yeah.
That 69 million bought those 5,000 pieces, but nobody heard that part of the story. Nobody knew what, everybody just heard an NFT sold for 69.3 million. And that's everybody start like, what's the NFTs? What's the NFTs? When the girl who sold the track for $1 million. I'm sorry, $1 million. Hang on, for 1 Bitcoin. The woman who sold the artist that sold the one audio track for 1 Bitcoin. She was in this from 2018, 2019. So she was very at the beginning. Kath Simard, who has done very well. Drift Shoots.
Anna Maria Caballero.
Okay,
sold
yeah.
Film for I forget how much. It's up there.
So the opportunity is here. I think that's a very you have to. The opportunity to make a big sale is here. It exists, but in order for that to happen, I don't think it's just luck. I don't think you throw up a piece of art and it just happens. I think that you have to have the whole package. You have to have a career. You have to show that you've been doing this. You have to show that you have a following. You have to show that people are interested. You have to show that you are taking advantage of all the different internet abilities, the whips, the videos, the lives, you're out there. And then I think when people see everything, the full package, it becomes what you said. This person is worth investing into because I see them doing things. They're not stopping. They're active. They're moving forward. And so this is another part of that puzzle. And so that's kind of how I don't look at like this is, you're not, it's the same thing with galleries and physical art. You're going to have to go knock on 100 gallery doors to find one person that might say yes. Then you get your physical pieces up there. It might take one sale, and then what? All the other 99 galleries will be calling your phone. But you got to work for that one sale. And just like you do in real life, here it's the same thing. I don't think it's any different here, So could that Tezos piece be worth a lot of money? I think it could, right? Let's say you had I don't know if Beeple has anything on Tezos, right? Or I don't know if, who's a big artist out there? Let's say Jeff, you know who Jeff Koons is?
Oh, yeah.
Let's say,
most people know him by the
balloon animal, right? What if Jeff Koons had a piece of work on Tezos? How would it do?
People lose their mind. Yeah, I paid a premium for a piece. I think it's on Tezos. Lisa Fogarty, huge fan of her. I think there was something that I got my hands on Tezos, maybe on secondary market or something like that. But regardless, it's
So I think the opportunity is here, but if let's say one of these bigger artists don't sell. That's not going to stop them from posting everywhere. They're not going to stop because you know what I'm saying? Where the smaller artists who are not maybe as established, if something doesn't sell, they pack up everything and fuck this place or this ain't for me. Or I'm not selling like in the very beginning. I'm not selling art for $1. Like no, that's this art over here, this might be a collection that might have been sitting idle. Who knows? Just get your face. It's like, it's like getting a ring, be part of the game. Throw a chip on the table, right? Everybody has a collection that they have stuffed away that maybe they didn't think was good for something. Put it up as NFTs and see if somebody bites. There was a time period where you could throw anything on OpenSea and it was selling. It didn't matter what it was, right? Everybody was buying left and right. So it's not like the opportunity is not here. I think there's a lot of opportunity here. And then there's the whole, networking, getting your artwork up on screens in front of the world. Like, where are you going to have that ability? Where are you going to have the ability to get your work in Times Square if it's not for NFTs and you're not going to pay it yourself? This world gives you the ability, right? So you're in Times Square. Let's say you pull out your phone, you take a picture with the, that your work of art. Somebody sees that. They get impressed. Wow, it's and then with the aid of social media, I think any artist can be successful. But there's plenty of success taking place in this world. But in this NFT world, but I don't think it's something that, like anything, right? It's just the banana that sold for $6 million, taped to the wall, right? The guy pulled it off the wall and ate it. He got more attention. What was it? I think it was the Binance guy. I think it was the Binance guy who bought it.
CZ or somebody. Or...
Yeah. So it was one of the crypto site owners bought it.
That's a slippery slope into conceptual art and art happenings and so on and so forth. Like that's that gets even deeper. And then you say, well, how do you price a given thing? Right. The fact that the Banksy piece is still partly in its frame, the girl with the balloon, was an accident. It was supposed to have been fully shredded. Supposedly.
Well, yeah. Hey, that's a good point right there. Has Banksy ever uploaded or sold or posted an NFT? Has he ever?
I kind of get the impression he's not a fan of consumerism to begin with, and so wasn't terribly amused by things being sold at auction to start with. It was more like, I don't know, art for art's sake without the commercial or consumer component. To some extent, that subversive vibe, that's how Shepard Fairey started, I believe. He was a RISD student. It was a big Obey sticker campaign, just slapping Obey stickers and Andre the Giant stuff all over Providence, Rhode Island, where RISD is. And then it blew up into the whole Obey brand, right, over time.
So we could be amongst the next Picasso, right? And if NFTs kept this next Picasso interested and posting, whether they were selling art for $1 or nothing, or right, and it kept this person, and then people, I'm gonna invest, and that, then it's worth every single second you spend here. But it's a lot, Tom. A lot of times, I believe it comes down to someone's mentality. The way they think, the things that they manifest, and if you think that you're an artist and you're gonna sell, then it's gonna happen. Whether you're in NFTs, whether you're on a street corner, whether you're in wherever you are. If you think that it's, I'm not going to stop, it's that mentality. And so, if you come in here thinking that I'm going to blow up, right, and it doesn't happen, and you get discouraged, then it wasn't for you to begin with, so that, with that all being said, it's a lot of times I feel like it's a mentality thing with people. So you could look at this world like of crypto people, right? Some people see a good use for it. Everybody else is walking around. It's a scam. It's a scam, right? So some people see things as a scam. Other people see things as an opportunity. How are you going to look at this? How are you going to look at Object? How are you going to look at Tezos? You're going to get posting. You're going to take advantage of it because it has such a huge community and low fees, or are you going to look at it and you're going to say, hey, this is a flea market of art, right? And I can't put my art here because I feel like my art is worth 10 times more, which was probably an ignorant way of looking at it at the point in time that I was looking at it. But, you know, here it is standing the test of time and being one of the better, you know, sites. And I'm saying to myself, holy shit, man, Object really kicked ass out of all of these platforms. You know, it's you know, and then you got ETH and you know, Bitcoin and you know, how many people have the ability to make that transaction with those gas fees? So like this really does keep collectors collecting. It keeps art moving. So there's a reason for everything. But obviously this little sector has done so well. It's not going anywhere. People will wake up tomorrow. There'll be spaces. There'll be art. There'll be people in there chatting. Somebody will make a big sale tomorrow. And, you know, the day will be over and we'll start it again on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. So this, you know, there's things happening. And then look at how many great people I've met and had the chance to speak to and create a show with. And so, and then you never know who's who, you know, and then a lot of people, it's, one of the artists that I use, do you know who Zapata is with the pigeons? Have you ever seen his artwork?
Seems like I have. I'm not sure.
You probably have.
Zapata name, it sounds very familiar.
He's so he has this he does these Palometa. Palometa is the name of his pigeon. He has a very distinct style. But if anybody really took advantage of this whole ecosystem, like he's got physicals, he's got digitals. You know, he's out doing the digital thing. He's out doing the physical thing. You know, to me, one of the better examples that's in this space because he's taking advantage of the space. He's taking advantage of the physicals. He's taking advantage of everything. He's just not, you know, he's not saying, I'm going to blow up in NFTs. He's, you know, using it as and so that's, I think, the best mindset that you could possibly have coming into this little until the one day my dream, my hope, my dream, I don't want to say hope is a terrible word. One day a dream would be if all of the financial collectors and investors looked at artists the same way they looked at meme coins. You know, if that day happened, this place would blow up like no tomorrow. But until they, you know, shake that meme, there's so much money in those, right? But there's no flip. The problem with the art is there's no flip power with the art. So it's not exciting to them. You know, it's not like I'm going to buy this guy's art. Tomorrow I'll be able to sell it for 1,000. Like there's none of that. You know?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's some, but it's not at the pace, right? We live in a society where everything is accelerated.
Right.
And the volume, the fire hose of information that's available to you, if you so much as like tap the valve, like the slightest bit, the volume of information that's available to you in a second is absolutely stunning, right?
Right.
You're on your own in terms of curating what you take in. So yeah.
And Josh just tapped in. He said, Banksy, no NFTs. So
kind of, it sort of makes sense. Yeah. Fun thing though is who is it? I have a piece. There's one in particular I love. It's by Farrah Carbonell. And I don't recall the title, but it's a little kid with a stick and like the ball, like hitting the ball with a stick, but it's the Bitcoin logo, but it's done like it's a Banksy style piece on a wall. I don't know if it was hand done or AI or whatever. It's one of these pieces. It's on East Mainnet. I'm pretty sure it wasn't a ton, right? It was an addition she tossed out there. And it was a kind of cool thing. Like you had to have one of her pieces in order to be on the allow list to mint subsequent pieces. It was wild. But anyway, this one in particular, it's a Banksy-esque thing. And I was like, all right, well, that kind of satisfies Banksy appreciation.
So,
But
aside from your collecting, which is,
yeah,
you do have a little bit of art up here that I've been kind of flicking through throughout the show. Um, is this
so
high school and college starting up again?
how do you mean?
Because it seems like you've created about 10 or 12 pieces, but I've only seen them on um, object.
So the basics. Um, so the foundation link on Linktree, that's there. There's one piece. There's 13 editions of that piece. They're all 721s.
Okay.
There's I think 6 of them. I went through and I bought extras because it was a time limited open edition on Manifold. That was a collaborative piece. So the first NFT that I ever created collaboratively with Cynthia C. I think it's what's her? She just recently changed her handle. It's Crypto Cynthia C or something like that. Anyway, Cynthia C, you can find her. But anyway, she and I collaborated. So this was like we got talking in a space. It was this back and forth. Do you want to do this? Yeah, sure. Okay. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? It goes back and forth, back and forth, back and forth till like the last minute. Not literally the last minute, but so anyway, she wrote this poem on the fly. She's a gifted poet, and I had come up with these graphics, and so this deep freeze piece was minted on the occasion of it was thematic, right? Beeple's Crypto Winter Wonderland event, this exhibition that he had. So we create this piece, it gets accepted, it's exhibited at Beeple's, like first NFT I've ever created is at an event in Beeple Studios. So that's the backstory with that piece, that it was exhibited there. The utility going forward in that is something that's a shallow rabbit hole that we could talk about. But anyway, there's lending, like you said, the value. Some people utility. I don't know. Has that gotten to be a bad word yet?
It was
but,
a big word back in 2021.
Yeah, but from a business standpoint, when you say, all right, is it what value is there going forward? So anyway, that's the explanation for that piece. The ones that are on Tez, that 6 of them were because 2 different friends had asked me if I could contribute. So there was a fundraiser, and this is where you get into gentleman Paul, his handle is Paul who is a ghost or something like that. He put together end result, there was this competition, and people were putting together curations on Tez, and they were to benefit a baker. One was one team was doing it for the benefit of the TEIA fountain. So artists that artists that are broke and need Tez to mint their pieces can go to that faucet or fountain to actually get enough Tez to mint their works. That's my understanding of part of the purpose of that. So one team was playing for that. The other is TIAR, which stands for This Is a Raid. And that is a group that I don't know how they make their decisions, but they'll go and an artist that has been chosen somehow, their art is then bought by this group wallet. And so it's to support artists. So anyway, those pieces, I forget what the listing split on them is. It's like, I think I did something like 69% or something of these. The revenue goes directly to those respective wallets. So there's 3 and 3 of those bakery oriented pieces.
Okay,
The latest 3, Luna's Last Gaze, Regalia, and Look to the Sky. Those were done just by me on the occasion of the 200 Tez event from last year. So I need to get more works out there. I haven't pushed these heavily. Obviously, my pinned post is for the 200 Tez pieces, right? And that's where I've left it as my presence within the space is as a collector primarily, because when there's a total of 9 pieces on object, and the one piece that's on it was minted originally in Manifold. It's listed on Foundation, but the next thing is putting together compiling all the artist statements that are behind the daily pieces that have been put out every day for the last 434 days. So I started January 1st, and this goes back to the whole Beeple thing with his 5,000 days and all that.
His dailies, right?
Yeah. So yeah, his every days.
Every
as
day,
I think
right.
officially they're known. They he whenever he started that, right? He's on day, I don't know if he's made it into the 7,000s yet or not. During one of his events when he was doing it live, I know it was like 6,300 or something. I have signed physicals that dropped from the ceiling during the events. That's kind of a cool treat. Like you said, it's work in progress pieces too that were printed. It's artifacts, as he called them. But there are pieces that are along the way when he's doing the everyday that he's saving things and snapshotting them. And these are falling also, like bits and pieces, not just the final version, are falling from the ceiling. At the end of the event, he signs them personally. So the what's my point? Oh, so January 1st. Each January 1st, people, at least for the last couple of years, he's posted on X and said, I'm committing to, again this year, creating one work every day and improving his skills and so on. You can go dig for you could easily lock it in because it's a post from January 1st. So you could run a search on Twitter, on X, for this to find his original posts, but it's inspiring. And if you meet the guy in person, Cynthia and I actually had the opportunity during one of the events to stand there and chat with Beeple and his wife and her friend for a good long while. And the work that he's done, knowing that, he's also extremely sharp, smart, personable guy, and gifted artist. His day job, or the circles that he has, like aside from the everydays that people within Web3 are going to see, like there was a digital art death match, I think was the name of the event. So I went back up to South Carolina for that, just by myself. And the people that were there, I was talking to folks from the Render Network, the people that, if you watch a show on Amazon or Netflix or things like that, the title graphics, the sequences for both series and for movies and stuff, the artists that do those people were there, like the infrastructure folks, the artists. I was like, oh my God, right? Like these circles that are part of Beeple's, like, shall we say, day job or life. It's like, holy cow. So, but back to the everyday thing, the inspiration came from that idea, right? There is zero chance that I would have created and posted 434 pieces so far had there not been that deadline-esque pressure. When pieces are posted, actually, they're technically at the prior days, because normally I'm based on Eastern time zone. Like a lot of times they're in the morning, but it's the prior day's piece. So technically, with my currently odd schedule. It's before I go to sleep is the rule. So is when they're released.
I'm showing them. This is the Jaden tag. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Day 4. Okay. Yeah, I got them.
There's an old post from when I started, from early on with these. A fair number of abstracts, some are representational. They are intentionally varied, so that I do not fall into a rut. And from day one, my goal was to not just do something like, I could just draw something like, so there's a handful of these Yaden Dog pieces that are actually hand done in Procreate. Or there's editing in Photoshop, or there's compositing and so on and so forth. But with these pieces from day one, the intention was something that I would be willing to put up for sale, not just doing something to go through the motions. Like, oh, here, I'm just going to draw some squiggles, or I'm going to draw a circle. I'm going to color in the circle, and then that's good. Beeple's first every day, or one of his first, was actually like a, I don't know, ballpoint pen or pencil drawing of his, I think it's his Uncle Paul or something. It's not even a good drawing. It's just, but it's an artifact from that day. Like, that was the thing. But anyway, I wanted to do stuff that was something that I would be comfortable putting up for sale. And first showing to the world, this worldwide platform that we have now. And if I were looking at it and somebody else did it, would I buy this? Right? That's a hard question. That looking at one's own work, and there's inherent biases that come with that. But would I conceivably buy this, right? And you can be your own worst critic. So there's a lot of potential no's along the way. Like, no, I wouldn't buy that, because you already know that there are other things, the other thoughts or ideas. And so there are those considerations. There's also the conceptual depth, regardless of the visual, no matter how complex or simple a given piece is visually. Is there enough conceptual depth there that I, in some way or another, feel it to be resonant? Or in the case of this one in particular, I don't know, I'm seeing it on a bit of a lag. So the Alice in Wonderland one, there was a follow-up post to that piece that the title is, perhaps for anybody that, I don't know, who's not familiar with that book, but the Alice in Wonderland thing, that you've got the Mad Hatter and you've got Alice, the Tea Party, the whole 9 yards. And so the title is Under New Management. She's the one wearing the hat now. And for that matter, she's got the White Rabbit's clock on the front of the hat. So.
Yeah, that's right. It's interesting. Tom, I noticed this when you told me about your name. I don't know if you want to talk about the creation of your actual name, but I noticed that a lot of what you create, there's messages within. There's a lot of thinking that goes into what you create, and if you're not paying attention very closely to the art, you might miss that message. The same way you might miss the message in your name, actually.
Yeah, we'll leave that little snippet of code for people to figure out on their own. You got to leave some puzzles for people. But and the Hofnarr thing. So the German part of the German component. So Yaden Tag, people are like, what is this? right? Or there's plenty of folks that all the GMs and things like that, like I'll usually put G Morgan, which Morgan is just morning in German. It sounds practically the same. But Jeden Tag, Jeda or Jeden, Jeda or whatever, is every in German, and Tag is day. So Guten Tag is good day, right? Guten Morgen, good afternoon, technically, is Guten Tag, but it's Tag means day. So Jeden Tag is just every day. It's literally the exact same name, just flipped over to. I'm like, what am I going to use for a hashtag? Well, here we go. We'll just flip it to German. Why not? So
I'm just showing a bunch of these day every days. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, we got away from us, but it's cool. It's worth it. It's a good show. Thom, before we let's start, we're almost 3 hours. But it's worth every minute. We started a little late. I wanted to go a little extra.
yeah.
Okay, let's do this. For anyone that wants to reach out to you, commission you, say, maybe they want to pick up a piece of art or work with you from what you said earlier. What's the best way to find you and contact you?
You can send me a DM on X. There is we can skip over the email addresses. We can get into that later. I think let's see. Just want to double check to make sure. I was looking to see if there was a straight username associated with in Telegram. Send me a DM on X. You can DM me on Instagram. So there's a little secret. Plenty of people from the Web3 world. I need to create another account on Instagram that is appropriate, shall we say. It is more art focused. But my Instagram account, if you want to look under the hood a little further, like there's various thought pieces and photographs and God knows a ridiculous amount of concert footage on Instagram. Same username, same handle. But yeah, best bet I would say is DM me on Twitter, on Instagram, and yeah, or just in some way or another, just give me a heads up.
Okay. Give me a second while I
even a reply.
I got
says, hey, DM me.
Okay. All right, guys. So right here I have Tom's X up, which is Thom at Thom4227. And then also his Instagram, which is right here, which is the same. We should have flicked through this too while we were talking. I completely forgot about your Instagram, which we should have picked. Which we should have flicked through while we were talking. I could do that on the outtrack of the song. Certainly a lot of art over here as well. Name Thom4227, same over here. So he said either of these pages is a good way to contact him. Okay. Also a link tree, and then this is his object, and then this is his foundation. This is foundation, right? Yeah. Okay. So this is, all right, I wanted to get all this out here. All right. Let me, give me a second while I switch everything back to normal. And then we are going to say a few things, and then we're going to close out and let everybody get on with their night.
And on Twitter, I think I have my DMs somewhat partially restricted, so I'll change the setting, just open it up that anybody can DM me. I'm gonna start there. In lieu of saying, hey, here's my phone number or email address, that'll be a little much, right?
You never know who's listening. I always say give them as many options to contact you as possible. But I think if anybody's watching this, they find your X or your Instagram.
Yeah.
It would just be a matter of you making sure you see the DM.
Yeah. And actually, let me check this. Measure twice, cut once, right?
Carpenter's way.
I'm looking for my raw handle on. I'm in the app on LinkedIn because there is that option. Which then there you go. There's full doxing. You can literally just send me a message on LinkedIn. I'm trying to see the Mark, you and I are connected on LinkedIn. Would you mind checking? Because I'm on my phone.
Sure.
And, if indeed through the web interface, if my handle is exactly the same, I'm looking in the settings for where.
Yes. Let me bring
In the app, it's obscured. I was looking under account preferences. Actually, I think
Okay. Would it be the same name, Tom?
I'll pull a browser window and check real quick.
You know what would help?
What's that?
Are we friends on LinkedIn?
I believe so. All right, so I think I sent you
I got you.
Connection request.
I got it. I got you. Okay. Up to you if you want me to put this on the screen.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
All right, hang on.
The main thing is just whatever my handle is, so the people can find me. Because there's surprisingly enough, there's a lot of people with the same name as me that aren't me.
All right, give me
including. Here's the full doxing part. I mean, it's including a German tennis player.
All right, let me bring this back up for a second. Give me a second while I. All right, so okay, guys, this is his LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's like people only kept his real identity obscured for so long, right?
Yeah, I mean, okay, guys. All right, let me. All right, this is gotcha. Okay, so finally, this now over here, this is now his LinkedIn. You can find Tom on LinkedIn. Thomas Haas, and right here. Okay. So I got you up here on your LinkedIn. So we got his X, his LinkedIn. And I had a very close friend tell me I had to get on LinkedIn and take it very seriously. He said it's where all the action is. And
yeah.
And then I had another friend tell me that as well. And then I'm still not listening. And then this is his, and I'm still in spaces. This is his X, this is his LinkedIn, and then this is his Instagram. So very easy to find him, very easy to contact him. Okay, guys, now you have all his information. So if you're watching the show, you have no excuses not to reach out and contact him. Okay. Now let me put everything back and double screen. Okay, we're good. Camera's good. Everything's good. We're all ready. All right, let's close out the show. All right. Tom, okay. Before we say goodnight to everyone, 3-hour show. We started 9:16. So we're gonna end that. We're gonna tack out at about 3 hours, which is I'm okay with that because sometimes it happens. Um, before we say goodnight to everybody, Thom, maybe you could leave us with some words of inspiration, possibly some maybe some thoughts or I don't know, advice, inspiring advice for all the artists out there that are plugging away. Maybe you could leave them with some thoughts. Why don't you take it from here?
Okay. Let's see where to start. In terms of advice for the artists, it's funny. I guess inspirational things have maybe come a little easier versus advice. I always I'm hesitant to offer blanket of advice that isn't tailored. But nonetheless, I would say keep going. There are there's plenty of reasons to do it, but one is if you feel an urge to create in some form or another, just go ahead and do it. Because if you do not, then the only option later is to say, well, I could have, but I didn't. Right. So it's a recipe for all the coulda, woulda, shoulda things. Generally, it's that's frankly depressing. Right. So going ahead and doing something, I don't know. Rachel Wood is always better at like putting together, things that for artists that are, shall we say, more inspiring, or the taking action and so on. Her for one, and there's plenty of people around, but keep going. There's the muscle memory, there's the habit with these Yaden Tog pieces. There's no way I would have done 434 pieces, right? Whether you like them or not, they wouldn't exist.
That's right.
Had I not said, okay, I'm going to do this.
That's no small feat.
Yeah. And I will be finally listing them on ETH mainnet. It's just pulling together. I'm a perfectionist within reason. That goes back to business, right? There's price, quality, and speed. Pick two, right? So the quality part is, so the artist statements that go along with the piece versus just throwing them out there without giving anybody any idea of the conceptual ideas, the thoughts, and so on that are behind a given day's piece. So those will be listed on ETH mainnet. The plan is to do it via manifold contracts, as 721s or 1155s, or no, both. But those will be coming out. But so now I have that hurdle to jump, right? Minting 434 pieces as of today. Like tonight will be 435. No way I would ever would have done that had I not somehow formed a habit or said, this is how I'm going to do it. Maybe every day isn't the thing. A songwriter maybe says, okay, each week I'm going to do this, and I'll have a completed sort of song or something by whatever day of the week, by Friday, by Thursday, by Monday, whatever. Forming those habits or doing those things, you look back on it. And I never thought going into this that I would go back and look through things and have practically, I'll recognize the piece, I'll know that I made it, in the back of my mind it's there, but to almost forget about one's own work. It's not necessarily quantity over quality, but it's find something that keeps you moving forward and motivated, and maybe trying something that you wouldn't otherwise have done. So there's that. Aside from things that are potentially encouraging, from an art and artist standpoint, this is a go look it up thing. It's probably in one of my posts somewhere, but there is a prose piece. It's not poetry per se. It's called Desiderata. Desiderata. And the first words in there is go placidly. All right, if you want to just look it up. by those two words. It's not super long, but it touches on a variety of different things. And for whatever reason, like it hits me hard enough, like not hard in a bad way, but that I cannot read that out loud and make it through the end without choking up. So I won't be doing that here. And but I'd encourage you to go look it up and read it. Just like I had said about Verité's lyrics and her songs, there are things that maybe not the whole piece, certain aspects of that Desiderata that will resonate with you, I'd like to think, that are either a reminder, encouragement, comfort, confirmation, right, of a feeling. So that was written back in, I don't know, 1927 or something. But it's just an overall, it's one of those touchstone pieces that I mention it, right, where it's not fancy. This is not Shakespeare. This is something that's written plainly that is nonetheless to me very resonant. The last line in there is strive to be happy. So that's I don't know, there's importance in that. That's why when you see some of the GM posts and things like that I post, there's a wishing for others happiness throughout, whether it's the week to come or having had some even moments of happiness over the weekend. So, and only take seriously the things that have to be taken seriously. The number of people that have commented on the fact that they're like, oh, you're so zen, or like you laugh at things that just because you can. And I'm like, well, you laugh at absurdity, you can laugh at stuff that's legitimately funny, right? You can laugh about things that you're like, well, all right, there's nothing I can do about that. Like, what else are you gonna do? Pitch fit and scream and stomp your feet? Like, at some point, it's just you kind of
Grin and bear it.
yeah. It's like, all right, well, that happened.
What number are we releasing tonight? Is it
435?
435.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to let you go because I want to let you release your work of art. But I do want to say I appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and spending some time with us, with everybody. It's unfortunate the comments are not active. X has its problems today. But it would have been nice to interact with some of the audience. Definitely had some nice viewership for the show. Would have been a little bit nicer to conversate with these guys, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Whether it's your post or mine, I don't know. I think I posted. I'd said something like, "Let's see where this conversation goes," or whatever. But I know that I reposted at least once. But throw replies in there. I don't know. We can keep conversations going. Anything that might be.
It's the chat. The chat in the actual. There's a chat in the actual show.
I know. I'm just saying delayed gratification.
Yeah. Sure. Tom, you know what I know? Right. You know what I noticed tomorrow morning when everybody starts. Well, no, the other side of the world starts getting up now, but also tomorrow morning when everybody starts, you'll all of a sudden the comments. You can start getting comments here and there. I checked it out. It was awesome. And then the conversation begins from there. But yeah.
Do you know that only 10% of my audience is actually from the U.S.?
I can believe that.
There's a massive imbalance. It's roughly 75% female and people from all over Europe and points east.
How did you determine that?
You look at the analytics.
I got to take a look at my analytics one day.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So yeah, I wanted to say thank you for the time for coming on the show, man.
Thank you very much as well. When you had asked me, I was extraordinarily pleased and more than a little surprised. And I greatly appreciate it. And if you, perhaps an occasion will come when, I don't know, even if you need to fill in. It's like talk shows, right? You have a last minute cancellation. And you're like, hey, can you come in? But
Yeah.
no, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mark, and it's I greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate it very much. I'm looking forward to seeing the future. I'm looking forward to seeing the 5,069.3 million sale. Yeah. I'll be able to say, hey, Thom was on the show. You know, like,
Yeah.
okay. So I'm gonna close out the show, which is gonna take me 2 minutes, and we're gonna come back to you. But I do have one last question for you before we say goodnight to everybody.
Okay.
Which is guest always picks the song to close out the show. So do you have a song?
Yes, and between two, um, one of the contenders was this is the old school club anthem "Insomnia" by Faithless. However, let's go ahead and go with a song that, again, like, listen to the lyrics. The song itself is cool. Listen to the lyrics, but "Live in the Moment" by Portugal the Man.
All right. All right. There it is. Okay. Thom, I'm going to, okay, so a couple things. I'm going to close out. It's going to take me 2 minutes to close out. You can hang on and say goodbye to everybody. If you got some place to be, you don't have to hang on, but it's up to you.
I'll be here.
All right, all right. We'll come back to you. We'll say good night. Let me close out real quick and tell everybody what to look forward to, and we'll be right back. Hang on. Okay. Hang on, guys. Let me bring up this thing. There we go. Okay. All right, guys. So you just had a chance to meet Thom. Lots of great information there. A very good conversation as well. These shows, man, they started off as an hour and they just keep going. So, it's a good show when it keeps going. On that note, okay, rest of this week, Wednesday. No, wait, let me start with this. Spaces tomorrow, 9 to 11 with Sketch and Shira, Super Community, linked by Art. We always have our space on Tuesday mornings from 9 to 11, so you could check us out there. Test show has nothing to do with you guys. Wednesday, community show is back. We're getting down to our very last few communities. And then I'd like to maybe switch to some new communities. Maybe do a cat community show or maybe a dog community show. Who knows? Maybe even I would like to get some of these PFP project communities on as well. But working on that. We'll see how that works out. But we are coming down to the end of the communities. I think we have 3 community shows left. So on Wednesday is, I hope I'm saying this right, Fur Curates. I hope I'm not butchering that. But we have the community Fur Curates on Wednesday from 12 to 2. And then we have a Friday. I don't know if we have a Friday show yet, but I'll be working on that. So if we do, you guys will see the graphic. So and then of course on Friday, 1 p.m. we have TGIF, which is just us messing around. That's my co-host Alina and Son, and it's kind of how we close out the week, just bullshitting away. And that's usually a fun space. So less informative, more fun, but we still hang out in there. And it's always a good time to see my friends. On that note, y'all, I want to thank you all for joining. That is tonight's show. And I'm going to jump back on the computer. We're going to close out right now. Say goodnight to Thom, and I'll see all you guys on the next show. So until then, I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hopefully, and big shout out to Josh for getting the audio right. According to him, my audio was not set up good at all, and that was operator error, which would be my fault. I don't think I've ever seen the bars on my mixer bounce like they are now. Usually I don't see that at all, but yeah, big shout out to Josh for helping me out with the audio. So on that note, I'm going to switch back over. We're going to say goodnight to, oh, I had the webcam on all the time? Oh, shit, Tom.
What, yours or mine?
No. I thought we were having a conversation. I thought you saw me at the table, but I left the webcam on, so it's no big deal. I usually.
I got you on two screens. It's all good.
Oh, all right. If you had it playing, then you saw me anyway. So good for you. Okay, let me bring this back on. We're gonna bring this back up. Okay, you're back on screen. It's full screen, and then this is full screen, and then we'll keep you here, and then we're going to, let's see, we'll bring this low, and then what are we going to close out? What do you think? Think we should close out going through your gram, or think we should close out on the everydays, on Tom's everydays?
Yeah, if you here's a little bit of fancy for you. If you run a search, because there are German news outlets that use that same hashtag amongst a whole bunch of tags that they use. If you type the word from and a colon and then at Tom4227, put a space and put pound Jeden Tag, it'll specifically search only for my posts. In that same German vein, some people are like, why is your, if they don't look it up, why is your wallet named Hofnarr? Hofnarr actually means court jester in German. So kind of brings everything potentially full circle a little bit with like, what's with the PFP with the anonymous mask and the jester hat and all that. So
I'm gonna, so I do, let me make sure I got this right. So it's, I do from colon and then the hashtag Jaden. Yeah.
Yeah, no, from colon
right
at Tom4227.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, you're specifically searching my posts. This is like Google dorking.
I'm learning right now. Okay, I got it. 4-2. And then I add the tag, right?
Put a space and then put, pound Jeden Tag.
I learned something new. All right. Tom taught me something new.
I mean, if you went to my profile and you clicked on the magnifying glass and then just typed in the hashtag, it would functionally work the same.
Oh, right. Have you been using Grok at all?
Yeah, actually, because the syntax of the real title, my original file names for the first 97 days, I did not include the final title in the file name, right? This is my mistake. And then it occurred to me like, I should have known to do this in advance or keep some separate record, but no, I did not. And so the only place that the final title for the first 97 daily pieces shows up is in the Twitter post. Otherwise, I have no record of what the title actually was. So yes, using Grok, there is two things that I'm working on have to do with the release of these pieces. One is not unnecessarily so, but gamifying or adding potential value and an additional layer of interest for releasing these pieces as NFTs. Whether it's the tried and true burn redeem thing, or if there is something further where there are airdrops along the way, depending on how to set that up. And so working with Grok on ways to add not necessarily a layer of complexity, but a layer of interest to the release of these pieces. Instead of just saying, here you go, here's day one through, and so there's that, but then also a mundane task, right? This is one of those things that this is getting used to sort of how Grok operates. I suppose if I treated it like a computer scientist and said, here, do this, do that, concatenate this information and these two strings, etc., which is kind of what I'm having to do, and say, look, here's the methodology I want you to use. Go collect all this data for me. So starting from day 4 until yesterday, and thus today, the syntax of the posts is exactly the same. It says day whatever, has the hashtag, second line is the title. Well, go through and compile the final titles, because the parentheses, the M dashes, and all this other kind of stuff that's in the final titles is compiling a CSV and a raw text record of that on an ongoing basis, and say, all right, Grok, here, go basically fetch. All right. So, and there again, it's a learning process, right? When you look at the LLM and you say, all right, well, what's it used to? It was easier to get deeper into a very complex thought and plan than it is to a basic, like, go search for this information. Funny thing that was a little weird, in working with Grok, I said, go do this, and it sent me a sample. All right, here's the first 100 days. And it had made up titles in there. And I'm like, hold on. I know darn well, I'm spot checking them. I know darn well these aren't my titles, because they're just not the way that I talk. I'm like, however, these are some idea seeds that it's just dumped. 100 of them. I'm like, some of these are pretty cool. So yeah, so the short answer was yes, I have. But yeah, the
I like I like Grok.
yeah.
It seems to be it's I've asked it a lot of questions in the last 2-3 weeks, just trying to see the answers that it comes answers that I know, right? And it's a very intricate it's just stuff that I don't think you would get the right answers from people. And you get the right answers from Grok, and that's all I needed to see. Now I'm just asking away, and you know, now I don't hesitate when it comes to. The thing goes out and gets me a lot of information in a very brief amount of time, so I like that. You know, it saves me a lot of time.
Yeah.
You know, everybody, I guess, this and that and this and that, but I tend to like Grok. I've used Chat GPT, and I don't know. It's maybe I'll go back and try it again, but it didn't keep my attention. But for some reason, Grok comes back with the right answers that I'm looking for. They seem to fall in line with what I'm looking for. Anyways,
Yeah. The first AI thing that actually tool or model LLM, I mean, it's tied to Chat GPT, but I was using DALL-E. I think it was at the level 2 or 3. That was the first thing I ever touched in terms of AI. Like, all right, cool. Here, I'll buy some credits. Let's see what you can do. And yeah, so that, you know, and things go on from there. There's a website. I'm not affiliated with them. I don't even know if it's a for-profit site or whatever. A friend had mentioned, put me on to Futurepedia. I don't know whether it's .com, .net, .org, whatever it is. But Futurepedia, if they're still keeping going with it, it's a daily updated compendium of like every AI tool that they can find. Like, you know, with the advancement of things, the pace that's so fast. Like, I go into spaces like the AI XR Tech Talk spaces. I think Zen or somebody runs them. But somebody commented in one of those spaces, like, things are moving so fast now that as an individual, you are not going to keep up with this and keep your sanity. Like, we have to, like, when we sit here in these spaces, yes, it takes time, and it's time that you could be spent doing research and experimenting. However, making heads or tails of working with these various tools and the new ones that are out there and the updates to existing ones, there's no way you're ever going to keep up. So it's like, as a collective, we get together as a group and talk about this. And I was like, oh, it's actually good perspective on that.
Futurepedia.io.
Okay.
Futurepedia.io. That's what it is. All right, I got it. All
Been
right,
a little
Tom.
while since I looked at it, but it struck me as kind of the Craigslist of AI tools.
Well, yeah, they yeah, yeah, they got everything here. Saj and Kevin. I'll throw this up for everybody. This is what he was talking about. Futurepedia.io. All right. Very good. All right, we're gonna hit this track, Tom, and we are gonna say goodnight to everybody. Say goodnight to everybody, Tom.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. And once again, Mark, I greatly appreciate it. And all of you who've listened in. I'd love to hear from good, bad, or otherwise, right? There's whether it's critical or complimentary or both or whatever, I'd love to hear from anybody that might want to chat about anything. So thanks again, and I hope everybody has a good morning or night, as the case may be. And hopefully I'll talk to many of you soon.
All right. On that note, I'm going to hit this track and we're going to close out. Good night, y'all. And don't forget to listen to the words, like Tom said.
My home is a girl with eyes like wishing wells. I'm not alone, but I'm
Good night, everyone. See everybody on the next show. Till then, peace.